is
G'day and welcome to On The Esky, a sports podcast where we like to wrap up the week that was in sport. Drink a few Tyler Zeros. Yes, quasi dry July for me now with a baby incoming. And talk about the big stories that unfolded in the wide world of sport. In today's show, we're talking cricket. England have pulled a win out of their ass against India. Johnny Bairstow's in some kind of form. We'll discuss that. Yeah. Plus, Australia, Sri Lanka. We're about to watch the first session unfold live before our eyes. Day 3 there in Gaul. NRL, a massive lead up to the big Origin Game 3 decider. One apiece, and a look back at the mini round that was in the club games. AFL Round 17 is just about through. A few games will be unfolding as well live before our eyes. A little bit of news in the NBA, soccer, and the NFL. We're starting to chat NFL. We're big fans of the NFL here on the Esky. Any of our avid listeners would know that. We're not quite into pre-season, but in the month leading up to the pre-season, we're going to start talking NFL fantasy. So we've got Sean's fantasy files. He's been studying the rookies, and we'll be talking NFL rookies to look out for your fantasy team, and we'll have a look at some other positions in the episodes coming, plus a short-ish final round. There was the massive UFC 276 card. We did discuss that last ep, so please do check that out on our YouTube. But we do have a little bit of fight news. F1 is in Austria, and Wimbledon. Big news in Wimbledon. I might leave it for Sean's shout a beer just quietly. And please remember, we do have timestamps. If you're watching the pod on YouTube, you can click on the timestamps or just watch the whole bloody thing. We do have clips, etc., and some socials. Please do check them out. They come out at the end of any of our videos and clips. And Monks, me and you didn't talk about it, but we're both wearing our Carlton Draft shirts. Oh, yeah. Get at the Carlton Draft. You can use the code ESKY to get 20% off any of their gear, shirts, hats, stickers, the rest of it. Boys, we like to shout a beer to start off the show to commend excellent behaviour or something. I don't know if it's behaviour.
Something in the sporting arena.
Something in the sporting arena that's deserving of a nice cold frothy given to you telepathically via the interwebs. Monks, how are you going? Who are you shouting a beer this week?
I like how you clarify that. That's telepathically. We're not actually shouting these beers. Like, we're not building up some massive bar tab, are we?
No, because like we've said before, we've shouted entire teams, entire NFL rosters. I think once the United States. So given the cost of everything, inflation and the rest of it, I don't know if we can fork out 340 million froths. Although you take out the underages, you might go back. Actually, then you have to. Do you include all the illegals in the United States? You might have to pay for them actually as well. So let's just call it an even 340 million if we had to shout the entire United States. Alas, you're only shouting one person, so that probably won't break the bank of the Esky.
Not this week.
With a telepathic beer, maybe a Carlton Zero for him. Who are you shouting, mate?
Yeah. I'll let you guys be a judge of whether he deserves it or not. But I'm shouting Pat Perez a beer this week. So after shooting a cool 80 at the Pumpkin Ridge Portland Live Invitational. I think that was a 6 over. He managed a $1 million payday. In part, that was due to his team winning the Invitational. So
what shit name's his team on there? The Thrashers or the Trashers or the Crashers or whatever fucking Tuesday night indoor sport kind of name that they've got in the Live Golf Tournament?
That's it. No, nothing too. At least it's golf related. They're called the Aces.
The Aces.
Yeah, so his team, he's got, I think it's Dustin Johnson, Taylor Gooch, and...
Love good Gooch.
What was the fourth person? No, there was
teams of 4.
There was teams of 4. Patrick Reed.
Patrick Reed. Pretty handy, DJ and Paddy Reed.
Yeah, so
you're saying he was carried?
Possibly.
I mean, he finished 34th in a field of what's like 40 or 60 odd, so...
Tough course, tough going out there.
Tough going. But yeah, $1 million payday for just showing up
and shooting.
There's always that one dude in the project that shows up on the day to get the marks.
Does nothing and still get an A+.
HD.
Probably me for a lot of my university career, to be honest.
Yeah, no comment on this end of the table. Also on socials, saw him. He was belting out. We are the champions on a private jet that the live competition is.
Did you
flying
see this private jet, by the way?
It's called the Crystal Sky. It's cost $73,000. I don't know if that's US an hour.
Oh, right.
Rent.
Yeah.
And you just had
That's Saudi money, bro.
Yeah.
It's for
That oil money.
That's it. So, live competition living up to its name, I guess.
Living it up. Very good. Very good. I like what you've done there. Yeah, good on him. You know, little battler going out and shooting 80. I'd love to be battled for an 80, you know.
And scoring $1 million as well.
Score $1 million. Go party with the Saudis. Yeah, don't know about the last
one. Welcome our insect overlords.
We've got to kiss some Saudi ass at the moment with the fuel prices the way they are. Go live golf tournament.
Yeah. Who have you got this week, Sean?
Oh, so changing it up, moving into the tennis world, I'm going to shout a beer out to Nick Kyrgios. He does make it through to the Wimbledon final after Rafa had to pull out through injury, and there's a bit of hoopla about that. But I think Nick, the reason for the shout of beer for Nick is he's been getting hammered by the media, especially the British media. They love to get stuck into him, getting stuck into him about his red shoes and red hat, etc. But he's played well. He's played up to his effort. Yeah, you know, he's off the court record is just as good. Smashing beers till 2:00 and then showing up for
that was the night before a game.
For a game, yes, yeah, just backing up straight into a tennis match. Absolute legend. But I think the in spite of all the other shit and everyone trying to go after him, he's just gone out and done his job. Has managed to I guess, well, it is a walkover. He's walked his way into the final here, and he goes up against the Joker.
Default.
But you know our thoughts on the Joker on this table. So happily back Nick in this one, and hopefully see him maybe finally win a Grand Slam. So which would be huge.
Massive,
yeah. I've loved some of the chat, the memes of photoshopping Nick Kyrgios's face onto Ash Barty's, as in like the two 5-year-olds, and they cross them over and say this is the up and coming tennis goat. It's been funny. It's been good. So big shout out to Nick Kyrgios, local lad. Go out there and do one against Joker for us.
We'll talk about that at the end of our final round as well. And my shout of beer, anyone that's been with us for, about a year or so would know the Frank the Tank incident, where I forgot which team Frank the Tank Kaminsky played for last year in the NBA playoffs. But I will know this year, or as of this week, he's gone to the Atlanta Hawks for a 1-year deal. He was his season was actually marred by injury. He barely got on for the Suns this year. But yeah, Frank the Tank of me making a fool of myself on the internet fame. Enjoy your beer and your tenure as an Atlanta Hawk. Mop of the week. We give out a mop here. And look,
there was a few going around this.
We had a few ideas. I've actually thought of giving myself a self mop. I'll tell you the story quickly.
You've got enough mops as it is.
I've been watching a bit of Tom Hawkins, the way he does his ruck work. Obviously similar build to myself.
Of course.
I was like, where's this guy?
How he'll do anything in the inside 50. He'll do his own ruck work, and he plucks them out, and snaps goals a lot of the time. Thought I'd try the same, and I managed to pluck the ball out, managed to step someone, and I was running into an open goal, went to snap, and it hit the post by a bee's dick. Snicko would have picked it up. You could have heard it. And,
we're supposed to be talking the two in the middle or one on the outside?
No. For a point, not for an out on the fall. But it definitely should have been 6 points rather than
dangerous.
1. And would have changed our 11-goal loss to a 10-goal loss in the local footy here yesterday. Alas, I'm not going that. We're going the sport of rugby union for your ridiculous rules. Now, there was the second test between England and Australia last night in the Rugby Suncorp Stadium, and
still sold out. So
sold out.
Caveat.
Sold out. As was Perth, and I think the third game will be sold out. Now, an intentional knock on apparently gets you a yellow card. Sean, do you want to run us through what happened here?
Well, what happened in the situation was it was an intercept attempt. So I guess the rules there very much to stop knocking the ball down in simple passing lanes, like as the ball's going to pass
deliberately.
Deliberately. But this one was the winger,
Isaiah Perez?
Yes, it was basically a double cutout ball. It was like a big one. He's stuck up the right mitt, knocked it up in the air, and potentially went very close to intercepting it, but it falls just in front of him, unfortunately. But that gets called an intentional knock on, and that gets him sat down for
10 in the bin.
In the bin. So yeah.
So not just being a bit of a redundant penalty in itself, because it wasn't a deliberate knock on. It was a deliberate attempt at being a hero and running 80 metres and scoring at the other fucking end. You then lose a man, and Australia had to defend with 14 men in the first test. They did did a great job of it, but it kind of led to some England points, and England got off to a really good start. They're up 19-0 in this game, and for a lot of the casual fans that maybe are leagueies and want to watch a little bit of international rugby, they're left scratching their head. Just going, what is this sport coming to? That is a joke of a decision and a joke of a rule.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those kind of trying to tune in between some of the other sports last night as well, kind of, the sentiments, especially through the social medias, of course, was like, this sport's just not interesting. I guess it appeals to the old boys. It's exactly the way it's always been. And they're the ones that keep turning out and settling out there in the stadiums. But it's, maybe the next generation, the young guys coming through, where is all that talent going? Because there's 2 other leagues in this country, and they are very much at the forefront, taking all those young talent, I would have thought. Yeah. Especially considering, you heard nothing about this. I saw one mention of this test and that how crucial it was going to be, which made me think, they're already up to the last one, but no, this was the second of the 3. So
you've got to have Stan Sport or they showed on 9 now. It wasn't even on Channel 9. It was on Gem.
Yeah.
So I don't know what reruns they were running on Channel 9 to get it knocked back to Gem or 9 now. At least, there are sellouts. There's obviously still a lot of interest in the international game in rugby. There's a World Cup happening next year. So, they're all positives. But, when, it was a perfect opportunity for him as well, because you had only the one rugby league game in West Tigers and Parramatta. It was a perfect opportunity to drag a few casual eyeballs in, and the ones that went in have to watch a bloke get sent to the pine for trying to intercept. It's a joke, man, and so just some of the play by England, a lot of penalty goals, and kudos to them for getting the win, making the third games a little bit more interesting. It's an interesting predicament that rugby union finds itself in.
Yeah, and there's so many great storylines they could be building out. You got to remember Eddie Jones is their coach at the moment, they could be building that up and trying to sell all that, and then try to draw in some more of the casuals into it. But it was Miss Castle who was the head of Rugby Australia for a little while,
possibly. Post Raylene or
Raylene.
Raylene.
I think
that's the name.
Yeah,
so she's been out for a good 12 months.
Over 12 months.
Yes, but her legacy is well in place currently. Is what I'm getting at. So did a solid job there.
Akin to that Italian cruise ship captain that ran the ship straight into the fucking dock.
Yeah, and then took his own loaf pipe and fucked off.
Raylene did wonders for the Bulldogs too.
Yes, I was going to say. Yeah.
Anyways, there will be a decider next week in the rugby, if that is your cup of tea, and hopefully no deliberate knock-on yellow cards.
Yes, please.
That runs us into another England victory, a historic one at that. Let's talk cricket. The 5th test between England and India. We'd covered sort of day 1 and day 2 last week. India, of course, went out and made 416 with going to punt and, smacking his 146. And then I think we were 5 for 83, last pod with England's first innings.
Yeah, and I think your quote was Stokes very accurate. It was Stokes and Barstow. Oh, my God.
So Johnny Barstow.
Barstow.
Johnny Bairstow. There you go, brother. There you go.
That's Sunday.
That's Sunday, 0 beers in.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But I think you hit the nail on the head. They had to do what they needed to do. Stokes didn't get really enough here, but
he made 25.
Billings held around long enough to, I guess, give Johnny the chance to put on a decent runs there to at least put them in the hunt, because we were worried they weren't going to get 150 or maybe they get 200.
Yeah, when you're 5 for 83, we were talking about follow-ons and the like.
So 284 was a solid get in the first there to then kind of push it into this for the back half of this test match. So yeah.
And the big talking point out of this was early on day 3, the heated exchange between Virat Kohli and Johnny Barstool Bairstow. Bairstow, I think, was 13 off 60 odd at the time. India were right on top of England. They were about 5 for 97. And it wasn't really clear what was said. It did seem like Bairstow instigated. And then there was a lot of finger pointing and hated words. And actually, Virat Kohli ended up blowing some kisses to Johnny Bairstow. Post-match or post-day's play, I think Johnny said something along the lines of, there was nothing in it. It was just a bit of passion, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, Johnny is going to say there was nothing in it because after, that exchange, he just went mad. He lifted his scoring rate and he seems to play very, very well when he's angry. I think it's a ginger thing. I really do think it's a ginger thing. Stokes plays well when he's angry. Bairstow plays well when he's angry. Our friend on the Esky Steam, I've never seen him angry, so I'd imagine, if he got fired up, he might be able to lift his game. And the tweet of the week, I reckon, was from Jimmy Neesham of New Zealand Test cricket fame, and he said, "Why do opposing teams keep making Johnny Bairstow angry? Lol. He gets 10 times better." And I had images of Johnny the Hulk Bairstow. You don't want to see me when I'm angry. I don't know why he's Scottish. And him, busting out, that big chest and turning green or red or whatever we can do in this iteration of the Hulk in my head. And yeah, he just completely responded to all the pressure and all the Indians, especially Virat Kohli, giving him plenty, and just went wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Let's keep England in this Test match. Thanks very much.
Yeah, well, Kohli's kiss of death, I think it's probably what it ended up being, because it continued. So to the point, it was through England's second innings. Kohli over exaggerating, celebrating some of those wickets to the point that
really the one of the Johnny Bairstow one.
Yeah. So the umpire had to step in and give him a couple of words and say, settle down a little bit. We're here. It's a gentleman's game. We're here to play cricket.
Kohli, he's always been that fiery, passionate leader.
Yeah. And I wonder if he was trying to, because, with Bumrah being the captain, he's probably de facto on the field and he's there trying to G his guys up to say, hey, we're in a tough spot here and we need to kind of put the foot down and get these guys out. And then, didn't really happen. But I can see, yes, he's trying to pump them up. He's trying to over exaggerate. He's like, come on, guys, we got to get in here. We got to compete with the Baz ball. So, didn't work.
Did not work. Let's talk India's second innings, and the opposite of Baz ball is Pujara ball.
Yes.
He went out there and played traditional Test cricket with making 66 off 168. Punt chipping in again with 57, and Ben Stokes also leading with the ball with 4 for 33 from his 12 overs. Now, did you see this little pinky finger? They're waving the pinky finger around. I thought, what the hell is that? Are they saying that the opposition have got little dicks and Baz has got this big cock and he swings it around? Is that what that means? No, it comes from the new Elvis movie. Apparently Elvis does it a little bit, and Stokes had watched the Elvis movie and he was saying to the boys, I want you to be rock stars like Elvis. Yeah. So that's apparently that's the story that they're saying at least. Yeah, there used to be. You remember that little
pinky
commercial?
finger? I think it's an Australian thing.
Well, you remember that used to be that commercial for speeding, and it was you'd wave the little pinky finger to show your disdain, if you will, at someone for speeding past. Did you see the idea being that they were compensating for their little pinky of a
Did you see Audi's follow-up ad to that?
Negative. No.
The Audi pulls up, revs the engine a little bit, and the old lady gives him the pinky finger. He winds in his window, puts his pinky finger up, and it's like 6 inches long. It's like massive ass pinky finger, big thick one, and he's just like,
big 6 inches. Oh, I love that.
For a pinky finger, it's implying I've got not come say I've got a massively
pinky
well
finger.
hung. Yes. Anyway,
enough of the cock chat. Let's
Well, I thought we were just talking about pinky fingers.
Pinky fingers and the rest of it.
Yeah,
Elvis.
Yeah, looking at India's batting, a couple starts there, no real follow-ons to massive scores. Gill, I think, was a bit unfortunate throughout this series. Hasn't really scored great.
Unfortunate in that he got seeds, or
well, I guess that's part of being an opener. I guess you got to play off and see off a lot of those. But you're coming in as the injury replacement, trying to put yourself in this team. Yeah, you want to at least get some runs. The top order not super strong, and I think Coley,
watch.
yeah. We talked about the kiss of death. Getting stuck into a bloke that's scored more tons in the last 3 weeks than he has in almost the last 3 years.
Well, he has it because I was looking it up. In fact, I wrote it somewhere in these notes. His last test ton was the 22nd of November 2019.
Yeah, so coming
up on 3 years. And Bairstow has 4 tons in his last 5 knocks.
Yes.
And again, when you're trying to fire up the boys and get stuck into someone, I wonder how his Indian teammates are seeing that now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
It's very different to when you're making runs to when you haven't made runs for a long time.
Yeah,
we've
going back to the kiss of death and stuff, I guess, does he not deserve... Does he have the credibility to be able to talk like that?
Well, that's the thing. We talked about Draymond Green. It was like when you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And
Draymond did. Well, they went out and won. Draymond played good defense.
Coley, hasn't really been walking that walk recently, but he's doing a lot of talking. So,
do you give yourself an opportunity to talk the talk based on prior form?
Yeah, but that was 3 years ago, bro. So.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I think he looks like an idiot when he's doing that.
Yeah, currently, averaging 20 at the moment. It's not great, I think. And
focus on your batting.
Less than Trent Bolt, as we alluded to over the last 2 years in a prior episode. Well, look, they were right on top when he was sort of barking, and you just got to slowly see Virat Kohli and his Indian teammates. Their hearts get broken. England's second innings, the fourth innings of the match, they needed to chase down an English record, 378 for victory. And for once, they actually got a good start with Alex Lees and Zach Crawley. They were cruising along, none for 107 at one stage. Then Crawley goes, then Pope goes, then Lees goes. All of a sudden, they lose 3 for 2. They're 3 for 109. Momentum, India. Enter the Yorkies. That they were playing this one in Birmingham, so in the Midlands. But Bairstow obviously getting those runs back in Leeds at their home ground. Joe Root goes out and makes 142 at in this sort of Bazball style, striking at about 80, 85. And Johnny Bairstow just continues this illustrious run of form with 114 not. They scored 269 runs in this partnership. Just absolutely, the Indian bowlers just had absolutely no answer for either of these two. Look, they wanted them to be rock stars, and they were rock stars. The highest fourth innings chased by an English team, 8th most runs chased down by any team in Test history. One of the all-time day fives in Test history. And Johnny Bairstow, just his numbers quickly. 589 from 578 balls, so striking just quicker than a runner ball from his last 5 Test innings, 4 centuries, 2 not outs. His average has risen from a measly 34 to a more respectable 37. Once you start getting in the high 30s, people can consider you a pretty reasonable middle order bat. I wonder how the Indian fans took to this sort of capitulation, if it was just hats off to Root and Bairstow just being way, way too good, or if they think maybe that they missed a few tricks.
Well, reckon complete embarrassment by India. So I kind of feel that maybe the sentiment for a lot of them, especially watching some of that last day, there was no turn, no swing. They really couldn't get anything on the ball. They were constantly trying to get new
English
balls.
roads, man. That's a new thing. English roads.
Yeah,
they hold out for 5 days.
Mm-hmm. So they really try. They're really trying to find something to go in their favour, where instead of maybe trying to grind their way into the game, drive the runs up, put pressure on, and it just allowed, I guess, Root and Johnny to be a little bit more free with it and play to their game and their strengths. And it kind of they were whacking them all over the place as well.
Like ridiculous. It kind of got to a point when sort of Root was sort of in the 60s and Bairstow was about 30 odd, where you kind of go, I think England's going to win this.
Yep.
And then it just started getting to the point where you're like, oh, they're going to shit this in.
Yeah, once they got the ascendancy, that momentum, and we're on top. Like it was done deal. Like,
Foot on the throat stuff, boys. Foot on the throat.
So you could just see it coming, and you look at that, like 19 and 15 fours with 1-6 apiece. Like they were just going after him.
Yeah,
so.
boundaries galore. Strike rates of 82 for Root and 79 for Bairstow. Bazball seems to be a bit of a thing, and it's an interesting English summer so far in that England have just won these tests from places, especially in this one, where you just thought they had absolute no right to even go close to winning these test matches. There's a few against New Zealand. There was one where they were on top, but two times against New Zealand where you kind of thought, New Zealand's on top or should get the job done here. And credit to this new English team and under its new captaincy and new leadership for going out there and not only playing great, Test cricket for their fans, but good for the neutral viewers as well. Remember last week when we were looking at that score and we were thinking, follow-on could be on here. Geez, short test could be on here, and it's turned out to be an absolute worldly test. Unfortunate for Indian fans, obviously. It was a bottling. That was a complete and utter bottling of a test match.
Especially how far front they were on the fifth day. It's I did want to talk Joe Root quickly because I think with the freedom now with the captaincy and the new coach and then change of direction, it's definitely opened it up a little bit for him. Now he's got a few extra helpers as well. He's not completely trying to carry that team and trying to get them into winning situations. So I think he's been quite enjoying the new change, and I'm not sure. I saw the stat. I'm not sure what the stat was because he got a ton in this, and I think he took the lead in tons over the other four, and then Steve Smith then tied that back up in the subsequent Australia-Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I'm going off the top of my head here. I think it was 28. Yeah, so I think he went ahead and Smudge, which we'll talk about in just a sec, leveled up at 28 as well.
Yeah, but another English player on a great run of form of late as well, and getting some support now from some of the other boys that have really taken well to the Bazball concept, and we'll have to see how that plays out long term, whether they can sustain this kind of play style across the various continents. So.
Yeah, I think Smudge. Can you look up Smudge's quote? R.E. Bazball. I think something along the lines of, "We'll see how Bazball goes when it's day 4, in Australia or something along those lines."
Day 4 at the Gabba.
Well, yeah, we've gone in overly confident too, overly jealous as the touring teams and how they might perform at traditional strongholds like the Gabba. Washington Sundar still appears occasionally in my nightmares. Where were we? Yes. I think that we're happy. We're happy for England and New Zealand in the test matches.
They tied the series. Drew the series. So in the end, they tied it up at 2-2, which was the last match. So ended up in a draw, which I think is a big out for India because they were heavily on top of that. Before the whole COVID and the delaying of this match.
And thank you there, Ricken, as well. Look, this Indian team really could have left their mark in history, with winning in Australia and South Africa and England away. But now they've lost to South Africa where they were highly fancied away, and they've now lost. They weren't able to win the series, I suppose, against England.
They're kind of a different team from where they were
that
as well.
True.
Like a lot has changed.
But that core of that team is essentially all the same.
Yeah, well, we can say the same thing about England, and
two very different teams from 12 months ago.
Yeah, but
from 6 months ago.
But I think that the strategy, the direction. For both of them has changed dramatically.
Sure.
Especially at the captaincy level.
Sure.
Not so much the coaching for India, but you can see that there has been changes there.
Yeah, but you guys 1 through 11 are essentially the same.
Yep.
I can see where you're at. And speaking of captaincy changes, Joss Butler, his white ball captaincy has gotten off to a very conspicuous start. India bouncing back, although, quite a different team to the test team, although a few
T20s.
Yeah, a few guys there that are the same. India have emphatically won the first 2 T20 internationals. They won the first one by 50 runs, made 8 for 198. Hardik Pandya 51 and 4 for 33 with the ball. And that man, Josh Butler, we talk about the captaincy with Root and does it affect you? Does it get in your head? You can't just worry about batting and the rest of it. Yep. Gets a first ball quacker. Yeah. Gets his pegs dismantled by Bhuvneshwar Kumar, and England only managed 148 response. India take that one comfortably in Southampton. And then in the second one, India win by 49 runs. So, pretty much the same story. They went out and made 8 for 170. The top order didn't do it as easily as they did in Southampton, but Jadu, that man that is always able to turn games on their head, he made 46 off 29 not to set up India's 170. And I did take a double, just scroll down there for me, monks, there for Richard Gleeson. If that's not the most English name you've ever heard in your life, I don't know what is. Richard Gleeson, 3 for 15 from 4 overs, a maiden. I thought, is this a young up-and-comer? I don't know who the fuck this bloke is. 34-year-old on debut, if you don't mind, in his first T20 international. So a bit of a silver lining there for the Poms in a 34-year-old. It's never too late, boys. It's never too late. England, though, pretty miserable with the bat. Dismissed for 121. Kumar 3 for 15. Bumrah and Yuzi Chahal 2 for 10. They will play a dead rubber T20 international, and then some ODIs, and then the South Africa tour upcoming. So it's going to be
for India or for England?
For England. So a long summer for them. I think they play, that test series goes into mid to late September, I think. So definitely getting a lot of cricket in.
Yeah, so in that first match for the T20, did they have anyone from the test team playing?
That first game, no. No, completely different team.
Yeah, completely different team. Kohli with 1 from 3.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, keeping his poor run of form.
So second teams, yeah. So
but in the second match, yeah, Punt,
Kohli,
Bumrah,
Jadeja.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, gave him a little rest and then changed it all up. But I guess it didn't matter.
Did it easy.
The Indian team has been dominating in the white ball form, but I guess they've gone up against England, who have been just as good.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it's so surprising, I think, for them to dish up what they did in the last two. The other thing as well, I sort of forgot to mention it for the World Test Championship, but it might be a nice caveat into the Aussies. Yes, caveat, not the right word there. Nice segue into the Aussies. England beating India in that test match was good for us in terms of a World Test Championship standings, and then the rest of it, England are essentially done in that, but India were hot on our tails for sure, so it definitely helps our Aussies out a little bit.
And they got, thanks Reckon, they got deducted 2 points as well because of slow over rate. So yeah, really hurt India in that one.
Yeah, you got that there, Monks, for us? Yeah. Thanking you. So Australia remain on top pending this result of the Sri Lanka test. South Africa in second. Pakistan. Okay, so Pakistan are just ahead of India, but they have only, what have they played? 7 games compared to India's 12. So they're only really ahead on percentage rather than points. So Pakistan will need, that will be pending some of their upcoming games. And then you've got West Indies, Sri Lanka, England, New Zealand, Bangladesh.
Kiwis, how far have they fallen?
Did you find that smudge quote by any chance?
Yes. Yeah. I think I got the whole quote here. So he said, the guys just keep talking about it. I think Ronnie has had enough hearing about Bazball, to be honest. It's good fun to joke about. It's been exciting. I'm just intrigued to see how long it lasts, if it's sustainable. If you come in on a wicket that's got some green on it and you got Josh Hazlewood, Cummins, Stark rolling it at you, is it going to be the same? I'm intrigued by it all. Is it going to work every time? I don't know. So.
Nice reading there at a 6th grade level from you, Monkey.
Yep. there wasn't a single number in that quote. So
you need the number.
I need a number.
Where's the equations, bro?
Poor old stuttery Steve Smith. But joking aside, it will be interesting to see, how they're able to replicate this, away in India or away in Australia. Will be interesting to see, and time will tell. We should be just about to start actually in Gaul.
skip around, James.
Yeah, I think we can talk about that UFC fight when we get to the UFC section. So Australia go out after winning the first test in 2.5 days and made 364. Sri Lanka, they did get the early wicket of Davey Warner. And then Uzi Khawaja made 37 before he got bowled by Mendes. And then it was the Specky boys, Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith. They put on a 134-run partnership with Marnus succumbing to a stumping from Dick Weller off Jayasuriya for 104. And then Stephen Smith talking about getting monkeys off backs and breaking streaks, unlike Virat Kohli. I don't think Steve Smith had scored a red ball ton for about 18 months. Goes out and makes 145 not to lead the Aussies to 364.
He ran out of friends, unfortunately.
He did, yeah, he did. It was actually a really quite a good effort there early on day 2, early yesterday from the Sri Lankans because Australia had kind of set themselves up to look at 450 plus. Here and then a little bit of a fight back in the 4th session of the Test match yesterday from Rajitha and Jayasuriya and the like. Prabhat Jayasuriya, he's got a famous name there. Obviously, Sanath Jayasuriya, an excellent Sri Lankan cricketer of the late 90s, picking up 6 for 118.
I wonder if it started turning a little bit.
I had my footy game yesterday, so I didn't catch as much as I would have liked to. I watched nearly all of day 1.
Day 3 started with the spinners.
And day 3, Nathan Lyon straight into it. We will follow that as it unfolds before our eyes. And then, Sri Lanka go out and sort of, fought hard and 2 for 184 as play resumes today. Dimuth Karunaratne, 86 for him, and Kusal Mendes currently at the crease, 84 not. Angelo Matthews comes back from his bout with COVID. He's currently 6 not out. Angelo Matthews' test record is very good. We can have a look at that in if you wouldn't mind. Thanks, Monks. But it's all about how much is this deck turning. It seems to be a little bit better than the deck that they used for the first match.
The Aussie tail enders probably need to work on their pads a little bit. Bottom 3 will get
some of the spin looks so fucking hard to play, and it's the old Kerry O'Keefe. It's the he played for spin. A lot of the ones are the ones that don't spin. They get and the bounce. Angelo Matthews, look at that. 98 test matches, averages 46, if you don't mind, 13 tons, maybe a little question mark, the old Joe Root question mark about turning 50s into tons. And interesting there, Ricken, there was protesters.
Well, I'm glad they going to complete this test match because
they got into the presidential.
Well, they
Prime Minister's
100,000
house
people
and
stormed on on the president's house. Well, I guess the equivalent to what the White House is. So they're taking over the president's office and
were they incited to violence by the president as per January 20 or whatever?
Slightly different,
January 6.
And I guess it wasn't ended up being Parliament, but they had heaps of people that were. Of course, their economy's in the toilet and they're really struggling over there. And another reason why it was so good to see the Australians over there playing, that's why they're building up some of the
in that 5th ODI, obviously. All the fans wearing yellow and thanking the Aussies. Hopefully, it doesn't affect the Test match either. They reached his bedroom and were shouting.
Yes. It sounds like there were some processes at the ground, of course, around the stadium. A bit of uproar in the country for Sri Lanka.
And understandably, we complain about the inflation here, but
maybe a bit higher, that one.
We can still put food in our tables. So
exactly. We've got fuel that can still afford it. So it's
not for long. Not for long.
So
glad he's bought a ute, hey?
Diesel? Or?
Diesel guzzler,
I would just say it's all work expenses.
LBW shout, umpire's call. Original decision not out.
Not out. So
nearly a wicket in the first over there for Nathan Lyon.
Bit of turn there.
There was a
turn and bounce.
Bit of chat before the game that Glenn Maxwell may get an opportunity in this one. It didn't come to fruition. The chat being that he might bat 7 or 8 and omit Mitchell Stark. Obviously didn't come through to be true, but I don't know if these are actually real rumours or if people just give the media something to talk about. Throw him a bone here. Maxi might be getting.
He was there, so I think it was like because he was rushed across to be in the squad just in case for coverage. So he's in the country, but I think. Paul, you don't really want to do that to Sri Lanka. You just I don't think they needed an extra bat for what they're going up against. Just keep that team going, keep that chemistry growing, and they'll be all right.
Fair call. Stark and Cummins have currently bowled.
If anything,
they've bowled 25.
I thought maybe
between the two of them,
they maybe would have rested Stark and put Hazelwood in just to get a little bit of rotation there.
He's so stiff to miss out on these sides, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah,
again, different conditions. It's not like Hazelwood's missing out. First test of our summer down under, you wouldn't imagine.
No, yeah. So Swepson's got 1 wicket. We want to see him, keep.
Well, his record's been good in this series so far. Yeah, he had 1 for 31 so far off his 11 overs. I'm sure he'll be getting this ball pretty early here on day 3.
It looks like Travis had got a bit of ball as well.
He got three overs, no wickets. He must have been able to ice his finger a little bit more, from all those revs.
Still recovering.
Yeah, that's right. He's got the stitch marks, imprinted there on that index finger of his from that demolition derby that he did in the 2.5 day test.
Green a little bit. Yeah,
barely any 3 overs from Cam Green. You see his catch? Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah, for the big man.
The bloke can bat. The bloke can bowl. He can field in the gully, and at 6'6", moves like a man that is not that size. He's going to play a lot of Test cricket.
Oh, definitely. He's one of those guys that even if he's maybe slightly off a little bit, you just leave him in there. He's going to play in that squad for the next 10 years.
Just got to get through those nervous 70, high 70s, early 80s. It's 5 dismissals between 8 runs or something between 76 and 84, something along those lines.
They haven't really shown the crowd.
I don't know if they've let people in.
That was going to be my question.
Here we go. We're getting a shot of the ground now. This is from the fort end, looking back towards the stadium. There's a few. I can see a few people, but I imagine the security is very, very strict there today.
But that looked like members. I'm looking just for the general grandstand.
But there hasn't been many people in there, to be honest, throughout.
Yeah,
not like the ODIs where we saw big crowds in Kandy and Colombo.
Also true.
Did we talk last week about bucket list going to this ground?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Looks sick. We don't have to reiterate if we spoke about it last week, but the old fort in the background, it's on the peninsula there. It's very cool. Anyways, we'll keep an eye on this one as it happens. We will be talking our local football codes in the rugby league and Aussie rules. So do forgive us if you're trying to listen to some rugby league and we go, oh yes, got him, something along those lines, because we're watching cricket and podcasting at the same time. Rugby league. There's been 3 games so far in this split.
Where's your whistle? It's on, you do well. So.
Thank you.
He doesn't get the AFL one done right.
He's still got to work on the siren a little bit.
I might go block nose, on the AFL siren, see if that's any better. We've only had the 3 NRL games, so we'll be pretty quick through it. Dragons and Broncos later this afternoon. Obviously, the big talking point will be State of Origin Game 3, but let's quickly run through these club games. And a wee bit of an upset in terms of how one-sided the Thursday night game was. I am talking about the Cronulla Sharks running in 28-6 winners against the Melbourne Storm. They were started on fire. It was 22-zip at halftime. The old Punters Club curse. We had a team bet. No, not me. Someone in my team. The winners only gambling squadron, aka the Wogs. I can say it, by the way.
Yeah.
We had the Melbourne Storm 13 plus in there, so obviously they were bound to get smoked after we put that one on. Big talking point out of this one, Brandon the Cheese Smith gets sin-binned for calling the ref a cheating bastard. I listened back to the audio. There's clear audio of it. That's exactly what he said, and that is all that he said. There wasn't any Fs or Cs or the rest of it.
Yeah, which is what I thought, because the ref was just like, I'm not going to repeat what he said, but he's brought his integrity into question. So
unless the mic didn't pick up everything, that's the only thing.
Or they've bleeped out those bits.
No, I don't. But there's no bleep. Oh.
Yeah, well, in the bits I've seen with the subtitles, there's a little gap either side of it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, whether they've taken whatever those out, but I think the cheating bastard was the main one because he's
Well,
essentially.
then you're questioning the integrity of the referee.
Yeah, exactly.
So that alone, is that a sin-bendable offence?
Well, it seemed to be in this case. It wouldn't surprise me if Cheese was on his case for most of the match
And he
beforehand.
just got the shits.
Yeah, he's had the shits and he's like, that's a fast draw. I don't need that. Because he essentially because Cheese moved off the mark and he was, giving the Sharks an extra couple of meters in the defensive line essentially, and that's why he called him. No, that's not fair. I've earned this ground instead of I've moved the mark. So that drew his comment of cheating bastard. But yeah, he got sat down. The Sharks faithful got stuck into him as well in the tunnel. I think he might have got spat on as well. But
You can't condone that. That's
yeah,
rough.
no, so
Cronulla Sharks of peptides and salary cap fame.
yes. Yeah.
Getting the shit with someone yelling out cheating bastard, although the Storm are not having the best record.
No, and I wanted to.
Comes to integrity either.
Yeah, I'll come back to the suspension potentially for him. The Storm have had a couple of these games this year where they just, whatever reason, didn't get off the bus.
show up, yeah.
Using some analogies there. Craig, I think, and it might have to do. We're in the Origin period as well.
I was going to say it was probably
people
Origin.
are in and out, but they've been really good with Hughes in the squad. Like they had, Pat was back here for a little while, so. That's a beautiful ball there.
It's given. We'll see if this goes upstairs.
Yeah.
Nathan Lyon to Kusal
That
Mendes.
turned 2 foot in that one. Bit of extra revs, definitely. Craig got a little bit to work there. Cheese had to play most of the game with Harry, of course, Harry Grant in the Origin squad.
Yep.
So, and did him no favours. They got turned over here by the Sharks. So from that, you've got Cheese, he got Sim in for the cheating bastard comment, and now they're looking to suspend him 4 weeks for it as well.
That seems a tad much.
Yeah, I
to
think
me.
if anything, I think this is fine worthy and maybe like a 5-digit fine. I'd be more than happy with.
yeah.
Like anything.
I'm putting the zeros on them, but I'm like, how much? Oh, 10 grand.
Start at 10 grand and go from there. So
4 weeks just seems absurd.
yeah, well, it's. If you're thinking match
a lot.
payments, that's more than 10 grand. Let's put it that way. For
Of
the
course,
Cheese.
yeah.
But I think a fine that makes more sense. You've punished him in the game with the 10-minute sin bin. You got to remember, a sin bin is huge in NRL. So I don't think there's a valid point for then having to then suspend him as well afterwards. Like you've dealt with it. If it was more of a, we saw guys getting their heads taken off them, they're getting less. I would think that is more important than. But his first one this season. Again, questioning the integrity of the refs. The refs have been getting hammered week in, week out. Again, statement probably coming from the NRL, and that's why they're doing the 4 weeks.
Yeah, be interested to see what he gets as well, because when they say, he might be facing 4 weeks, and then it goes to the judiciary and he gets 1 or 2. So we'll see what happens at the judiciary. Rabbitohs, they smacked the Knights. They put 40 on the Knights. I won't say smacked. It was 40 to 28. They were real banged up. So Campbell Graham fractured his eye socket last week, so he was always going to miss, plus their Origin players. And then I think in the game day, Alex Johnson and Mark Nichols both got rubbed. And then opening minute, Lachlan Ilias had a head clash and missed the
Day done.
79 minutes of the game, essentially. They were able to overcome it. Cody Walker having himself a game. He had 20 tackles, 2 tries, and 3 try assists. And a nice story for the late inclusion, Richard Kenner. I think he's played 9 NRL games over about 5 seasons or something, sort of a perennial reserve grade player. He comes in late for Alex Johnson and he scores the hat-trick that Alex Johnson would have scored in that one. So a good little story for him. Now, me and Monks were watching the Dave Clemmer send-off. It was as time expired. It was a little bit... It's hard to really tell. It was pretty much sort of elbow, in the face, a little bit of niggle, on the ground. It was kind of hard because the cameras didn't really get a very good shot of it. Again,
Priors. That's it.
Yeah, priors. Yeah, maybe sending someone off with 20 seconds to go is a little bit interesting as well.
Yeah, go have an early shower.
Yeah, didn't seem like there was too much in it, but it'll be interesting to see what the judiciary thinks.
I think Monk's hit the nail on the head there. It's more or less like, let's not let this boil over into anything else at the siren. Just send him off. We'll deal with that later. And probably because Clem's also got priors as well.
He had priors. I think think Cody Walker.
He was sent off last week. So
Cody Walker ran in to try and stick up for his teammate, and I think maybe they were trying to.
Well, you see Latrell. I think there's also Latrell a bit of an instigator with some of this too. He was all over it and a bit fired up. So not a huge crowd there. I don't think that it was anything really in it. I think it was more just let's just manage the situation, get out of here before it gets out of hand.
I agree. Parramatta beat West Tigers 28-20 last night at Leichhardt Oval. There was a bit of...
Were they down 12-0?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were.
Yeah, Tigers had an early lead. I watched the start of this game.
Any good?
No.
It was 12-0. The Parramatta Eels didn't get through until Regan Campbell-Gillard of, maybe feeling a little bit dirty that he wasn't back in this Origin squad, which we'll talk about in a second.
Rumours floating around the Penrith players don't like him.
Ooh.
And since that makes up half the squad, that's why he's not getting picked.
Interesting. But Parramatta played well in the second half to get the win. I was seeing a stat line going around that Parramatta hadn't won at Leichhardt for 20 years. I'm not sure how many games that is.
One a year?
Well, no, at Leichhardt I doubt it because they play there, they play Campbelltown, they play...
and they have to play Parramatta at the same time.
And they have to play at Parramatta, and they sometimes play at it's a core stadium now.
Yeah.
The old Olympic stadium.
We talk about
so it may be like 5 games, but I'm not really sure.
Don't look it up, James.
Yes, good luck finding that, to be honest.
We'll see you next week.
Mitch Moses had himself a good game, 101 run meters, good kicking game, and a try assist and a meat pie for him.
Yes.
Broncos Dragons this afternoon. It will be starting at sort of the end of our pod.
Yep.
Payne Haas is obviously not playing Origin. He's done his AC. Tamari Martin, rib cartilage. He's going to miss a few weeks, which has been a shame because he's a bit of a resurgence for the Bronx this year.
Oates also out with.
Oates goes into the Origin team, which we'll talk about in a second. For the Dragons, Ben Hunt's playing Origin. Jaden Sullivan will play 7 with Talatau Amoni at 6. It's going to be interesting to see how those young halves do.
I did put that in there. I was wondering if you would skip over it.
We watched it last week with the Dragons winning.
We were all like, oh, he's offside.
Yeah, and we didn't really think too much for it after that. We are talking about the Dragons-Raiders game in those terrible conditions at Wynn Stadium.
Yeah, right in front.
Right in front.
Last tackle.
Should have been 10 in the bin, professional foul. Perhaps Ben Hunt running in to make the tackle on the Raiders' dummy half.
I think you got to give Ben Hunt his dues. He understood the rules that in that situation it's a ruck infringement, so it's six again.
6 again,
which is what they got, but it doesn't end. And the NRL, as they like to do, I think that's 2 weeks in a row, maybe for the Raiders, come out and say, yes, that should have been a penalty in that situation.
Should have been a professional foul.
Yeah. And they'll be able to kick a goal and tie it up and go into golden points.
Go into golden point 13-12.
Yeah.
13 on 12 men, I should say.
Yes.
Anyways, I'm a Dragons fan. We've got a Dragons fan to my right here, so play on. Bad luck, Raiders. Keep whinging there, Ricky.
I think the question it did stoke the question about the 6 again rule and how teams are using it in their favour like this, and it's glad it happened now and not in a finals game, etc.
And it goes back to sportsmanship and gamemanship. You know, we spoke last year about Benji Marshall and him being very smart. I think that was a Raiders game as well, where he was able to dud them. Is it a professional foul if you're just doing something? You're just kind of working the rules to your favour. You understand the rules. You understand when you'll get a 6 again and when there'll be a penalty awarded, and just playing it in the right direction. Yeah, I don't know. It's a slippery slope if you start going down that way, I would think.
Well, this is the reason why the refs get hammered every week.
Yeah.
Because the rules, by the letter of the law, the rules was interpreted right, but in, I guess in that, within that 10 seconds that he's going to make a decision, but how it looks and when they've reviewed it, they've gone, well, actually, we probably should have caught it this way. So there's no, I guess, common sense in there. It's so grey, I think, is the problem.
It's very grey.
They're just trying to do their best, really, and they're just getting hammered for it.
And it robbed the neutral viewer of at least the chance of a good finish to the game there. whereas it was really a sort of, for anyone that's not a St George Dragons fan, St George Illawarra Dragons, I should say, it kind of
raised a question.
It made a lackluster. It made a very lackluster.
All three of us saw it. We're like, he looks kind of offside. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess not. Or but anyway, we'll see where the chat about the 6 again rule continues. I think is the thing to take away from this. We'll have to see how that long, because that's a V'landers special. We'll have to see how long that lasts.
Yes. 6 again special, and is our punters club cursed? Because that was also the last leg of our punters club at Malta.
Yeah, yes.
That one from last week, not the one that died in the first 20 minutes at PointsBet Stadium on Thursday night. All right, now there's a bit of rugby league news to get through before we get into the State of Origin Game 3 preview. A few of the chess pieces have been moved. There's been a lot of speculation around Reece Walsh. A lot of people were thinking Dolphins for Reece Walsh. And no, he goes back to the Brisbane Broncos. 3-year deal at about $1 million a season. You're thinking they might do a little bit of moving around in the spine after Reynolds retires? What are you thinking there?
Well, I think that's what did I put it there? I think there was a chat because
so you think playing Walsh at 6, Ezra Mam to 7, Selwyn Cobbo 1, who just re-signed as well.
Yeah, so long-term Cobbo is seen as a future fullback. So if Walsh is going to come in, where does that mean he goes? Does that mean he becomes a 6? We'll have to see whether he takes to that well or not. Ezra Mann is the 7 in that scenario. But it's ended up being an interesting kind of carousel because Chance, Nico Klostag wanted to go back to the Warriors, be close to the family. So which happened. So he signed with the Warriors for a couple of years. Walsh, by all accounts, since he made those comments a couple of months ago that he was happy to go to New Zealand, kind of had to backflip. Sounds like he had a split with his missus and has a daughter, so he wanted to stay in the country.
Young daughter.
So he understandable in that situation why he's there backflipped on the Warriors and gone back to the Broncos. And by all accounts, it sounds like Wayne was on the blower. He was not happy, Wayne Bennett that is, that they didn't even get a look in to Walsh because it sounds like the Warriors are kind of dictating where he could sign if they were going to release him. So it sounds like there's a bit of bad blood between the Warriors and the Dolphins. Potentially, thinking maybe because they've got a few New Zealand internationals in their forward pack that the Warriors were keen on getting back home. So, and we're getting stolen. But either way, it's created a little bit of fullback carousel at the moment. Because that also then means for Martin, who did extend with the Broncos, also wants to go back home to New Zealand at some point.
For tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. So whether that means
the Warriors might throw some at him?
Yeah, potentially, but then Chance is there playing fullback. It's kind of like there's 3 guys and only 2 spots.
Tomorrow, Martin to the Dolphins.
Oh, there you go. That's... but yeah, it sounds like he had the same. I want to be close to the family chat and go back to New Zealand. So yeah, kind of a little bit by surprise. He obviously I think kicked off with Chance making his move. They got that deal done, which allowed the Warriors to essentially release Walsh, and the Broncos jumped all over that. And
you'll be seeing a lot more of your boy Xavier Savage as well.
Yes, for the Raiders.
Yeah, who essentially has already taken that number 1 jersey.
Yes.
Yep. Is that it for player movement? Broncos, they're going to swing the axe a little bit. Have you been reading about that?
So that follows on with their conversation with the guys. They're going young because they have, Martin. I thought they extended Martin a year, so he might be out of contract next year. But Kelly's off contract. Oates, I think they might want to keep Oates.
I think so too. He's had a resurgence this year.
Yeah. And so... whether they keep him or not, then they've also got all those conversations with...
Those would probably fit in with your leadership plan as well.
Maybe. Yeah, you kind of need some old heads, don't you?
So Ryan James, Mead, Branko Lee, Kennedy, I'm not sure of, and Tarpon, who's the hooker, were the other ones there that they were potentially... we're definitely cutting to create...
Isn't Branko Lee going to the Dolphins?
Yes. Yeah. So essentially, they're guys they're losing.
Okay, yeah.
So from this year's squad.
I'm with you.
So I think the other one's off contract next year.
Okay. Yep. So it might be a bit of a different looking Broncos team next year.
Yes. Well, Benny Eichen and they're stamping his image all over the squad.
Broncos good. NRL 360 shit, etc., etc.
Yep.
Andrew Webster is going to be the new New Zealand Warriors coach. He is currently an assistant at Penrith.
Not the Penrith assistant I think everyone wanted.
No, not in Cameron Ciraldo.
Yeah. Any relation, James?
Well, how about this? His older brother, James Webster, has coached in the Super League. Well, there you go.
I look a lot younger than I actually am.
Andrew Webster is 40 years of age. He never played first grade, but he was a Balmain and Parramatta lower grades junior. He was actually interim coach at West for 2 games between Jason Taylor and Ivan Cleary back in 2017. But yeah, he's a bit of an unknown outside of those deep within the Penrith system, I suppose. A good system to get a young coach out of, and it'll be interesting to see how his full-time coaching career goes taking on the Warriors job.
Yeah, tough job, Warriors job. So haven't had any real great success since, when Stacey Jones took them to the grand final in 4 or 5.
No, they made a grand final in 2011 against Manly.
Ah, the Manly one, yes.
Yeah. That was young RTS days.
Yeah.
Sean Johnson would have been there, I think, in those days. But they also did lose that one to the Roosters in 03, 02.
Yeah, so not a lot of great success. And they were like dark horse years for them. Like they came out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
But they haven't had long sustained periods of success, unfortunately. So,
but they're going back home. There was promising signs, at least in the supporter base there last week. Streakers.
Yeah. The Streakers, 5 Streakers in that match. So
I wonder what the record for most Streakers in a game was. Fucking hell.
Some great viewing of New Zealand Secchies. Destroying Streakers.
Indeed. Don't streak in New Zealand. A health warning. Monks, you actually looked up this Parramatta at Leichhardt Oval stat, did you?
I got it.
That's why we got you down the end of the table here. You can find anything.
Yeah, so I'm assuming this was their first win. They have played at Leichhardt 5 times against West Tigers. They played against Balmain.
Plenty of times,
yeah.
So there you go. The first win for Parramatta against the West Tigers at Leichhardt.
At Leichhardt. So there's 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses. The 4 against, they've scored 120 points. They have been scored on 112 points.
Nice. Really useless information that last bit.
I know, right? When they've scored more points than what they've lost by, but have only won 1 game. So
Go figure. There you go. Next Leichhardt encounter between Parramatta and West Tigers. The numbers tell us to take either team by a try or less. It was the 2002 GF that Stacey Jones team went down to the Roosters back in 02.
Actually, this probably explains the points difference. So high score at Leichhardt. Parramatta scored 66 points against West Tigers, 12 points back in 2001.
So that was the last time they won.
Probably.
Against West Tigers. There we go. That was a fun tidbit. Sean's shaking his head down the end of the table there on my left.
Any chat about West Tigers just doesn't need to happen. or Parramatta, fuck me.
Parramatta maybe possibly more relevant. I don't know. Going back in the annals of history at Leichhardt Oval. Interesting. Let's talk about State of Origin, eh?
Yes. Origin teams, and it's been a bit of an unfortunate week for both sides.
Yeah.
Started with the Blues losing Jordan McLean early. Hammy during...
Yeah, poor bloke. Hammy during training camp. The bloke's 30. Mm-hmm. He was just about in tears in the presser. And you have to think, at his age and the fact that he's essentially in there replacing Payne Haas, you'd never say never, but that may have been his only opportunity to play Origin.
It's a big opportunity, and it's unfortunately misses it through the hammy and
fuck hamstrings, man.
Yeah, and he's got big ones.
He's a massive bopper. He's a massive bopper. It may be a little bit of a left field decision, although without Payne Haas and maybe RCG being blacklisted out of favour, perhaps on form, I would have thought RCG had to have been a look in to come into this team, but no, Jacob Saifidi comes in. The
So that's the
younger
younger brother,
of the
yeah.
younger of the
'Cause
Saifidi brothers.
Daniel-
Daniel is currently injured.
Yes.
So Saifidi comes in. How they'll actually line up, I don't know if Saifidi will start or if Polo will start Saifidi to the bench. I suppose we'll find out Wednesday. The other sort of thing worth chatting about, I think, was Jack Whiten missing out on the 17.
There's
He's
been
in the
plenty
squad.
of rumours that they might actually change that decision and give him a run there for Stephen Crichton, but
was just about New South Wales' best player in game one, and has been good for the Blues in the past. But
so
do you drop? Do you change a winning formula? Crichton played fine in game two. Do you pick and stick and reward? And bad luck that you got COVID, Jack. His club form hasn't been that good, but I think Jack Whiten is kind of like a Dane Gagai in that. Very different in Origin.
Oh, he's been the Raiders' best though.
He just. I think the thing when I say he hasn't been playing lights out for the Raiders, he has to do too much for the Raiders, and then when you put elite talent around him, he's able to really shine. I think when he does get a run for the Blues.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have to see what mind games Freddie is playing with there. And
He'd be pretty stiff on Critter to get named and then it just be not mind games and Jack come in and play for
I
you.
wonder if it potentially becomes more a chat about being 14 because they've got two
And then
hookers.
Cookie would miss out in that regard, but
that's they switch it.
Now
Because Appy only played 30 and Cookie played 50.
but why would you? I don't know. Why would you name Cookie at 14 again and change the winning formula? Like I can't imagine they change that. I think Appy will play 30 to 35, and then Cookie will run out the rest of the game.
Because their problem was Hines got COVID, so they brought Townsend into the squad.
Yeah, Chad Townsend. How about that?
So they don't have. I guess a backup in that plan for the utility. If it's either Cook or where Jack fits in that conversation. But
this is all
speculation. I think you're right. They'll stick with the 17.
I think 1 through 17 will be who plays. It's just like we were talking about the cricket team before. Is Maxi going to come in? There's all the chats. Maxi's going to be in. As we just watch a miss stumping here in the cricket. I agree. I think it's more just to get talking heads to talk and just speculate. I imagine they line up 1 through 17.
Misdirection. Smoke and mirrors is what we're talking about.
Smoke and mirrors.
Unfortunately for Queensland on the other side.
Yeah, how are you going to handle this? Is this smoke and mirrors? Mustard's got COVID. He doesn't actually have COVID. He's got swine flu.
Yeah, well, they've been waiting on the PCR test to come back, but it sounds like they've had multiple rats and they've just it's done. They're both out. So Munster and Murray are both out. For Queensland. So we talked about Oates comes in as direct replacement for Murray.
Can you say his surname? Murray, can you say his surname?
No. I'm just checking. I was like, I thought Murray was his surname.
Murray Talangi.
Talangi, yes.
His name was Talangi Murray.
Yes.
Got a nice ring to it, actually.
But Oates comes in there as a ready-made winger, and he's had a pretty good year so far with some decent ball coming his way, some surface. The big out is Munster.
Yeah,
so
massive. Changes the whole dynamic of the whole series.
Yeah,
and it'll give you Queenslanders something to whinge about when you lose this game.
Yes. And I was trying to work my way through is there replacement 5'8"s because we don't really have the luxury of having all that depth that New South Wales does with the amount of guys that come out in the New South Wales system to potentially pick a ready-made 6. Some chat about Ben Hunt, does he go to 6? And they bring on a different utility.
That makes sense with Harry Grant already in the side. So, that I kind of thought that might have been the way that they were going to go.
But they've gone young Tom Deaton, who has been playing 6 and been playing well for the Cowboys, into that spot. We'll have to see what kind of job he does for Queensland. Big shoes to fill. I expect the potentially will start Paulo and maybe run him at Tom early and see and
force him to defend.
Yeah, because I think in clubland he's got big JT standing next to him, so he'll
have big Tino standing next to him, I suppose, out there, or Lindsay Collins, Papali'i. But I suppose any young, undersized half, that's probably what you're going to expect in a big game is to get run at, a la Sam Walker.
Exactly.
Who also was a shout to come into this
potentially is another 6. So. I think it's it's good. It's kind of rewarded his form and how the club and the Cowboys have been doing. So I think it's a fair call there. And we'll have to. They've stuck essentially elsewhere. Everyone's 17 with a small change on the bench there with Tom Gilbert coming in. And is that?
Have you seen much of him?
No, I
Cowboys
haven't.
second rower.
No.
I was looking up his stats. Doesn't really, warrant selection just based on stats. Although I can't say I've watched every minute of Cowboys games
And
this year.
he's what, the Kafusi replacement, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah. So he's named at 17. And speaking of rewarding these Cowboys guys, so that's Dearden, Gilbert, McLean. Poor fella going to miss out. But yeah, a lot of the ins were Cowboys. And Chad Townsend obviously going into that squad. He won't play, but yeah, they're getting rewarded for their good season that they're having so far. How do you feel as a Queenslander, honest to God, without Munster and these changes to the sides? It is at Suncorp. Are you still quietly confident, or is it a bit of a concern not having Munster?
Shouldn't be confident as Queenslanders, but that's exactly where you want to be.
Yeah, the underdogs. Yeah, the unlosable series for New South Wales in 2019, etc.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of put all the chips. Your back's against the wall. All the chips against you. You now got to fight your way out of it, and that's exactly where Queensland likes to be. So in that regards, they've got plenty of immortals in that assistant coaching and in the coaching ranks. Like they'll get those boys ready. Queensland wise, and we'll have to see how it all plays out on Wednesday. Let's hope Billy uses his forwards in the second half.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It will be interesting. I don't know. Again, you don't want to get too cocky, but on paper, no Munster. Geez, you wouldn't hate New South Wales' chances. Although Suncorp, they've got a terrible record there. We did say after losing the first game, they've gone 4 from 20. So it'd be interesting to see what happens.
It's a challenging place to win a football match if you're a New South Welshman, but I think it'll be as close as the first game was, within a try, probably under 20 points per squad scored. Yeah, another one of those 16-10 kind of score lines incoming.
See what happens Wednesday. Now, eligibility. So Brian To'o is going to play for Samoa in the World Cup.
Yep.
He
even had to apologise for this as well.
Really?
Yeah, he apologised to the media for causing apologised on social media for causing all this conversation, essentially kick off. But I
think it was more so apologising to like his family and stuff as well.
Yeah,
because they wanted him to play for it. Like if he got a call up for Australia, like they would have been very proud of him to play for Australia.
Yeah, but then also like family, they would have been proud if they played for Samoa. Like
either way, yeah,
exactly. Anyway, the dinosaurs, they're the ones that got all up in arms about playing for Queensland and New South Wales is. It's an Australian trial. If you're not going to play for Australia, you shouldn't play in Origin.
I don't think it's an unreasonable take.
Yeah, I get it, but then also I think that it probably dismisses how multicultural Australia is.
Yeah.
And the fact is it's state representation. I think of it as it's, repping the state that you grew up in versus your cultural heritage, which is what I think the international game should be more of. If you use that 13 rule, if you were 4-13 in this country and you grew up playing in Queensland or New South Wales for that period of time, then yeah, you can play for Australia or you can play for any of the other ones. And I'd even open it up to New Zealand and England because I think if you want to grow the international game, I think they should be completely separate in their thinking. I get they're like, hey, it's are you trying to pick the best 17? And I'm like, well, Australia's been lucky that we have dominated this sport and have potentially all the best players playing for us. So we have a very good selection. So you do get Queensland, New South Wales being very close to an all-star kind of game. But I think if it's state representation, if you have any involvement with that state for a long period of time and your growth, then I think you should still be eligible to play within that state.
Looking at this New South Wales team, if this becomes an issue moving forward, about half the team could possibly through ancestry be playing for other nations. We spoke about Tupou and Stags, with Tonga. But then I think Crichton has Samoan heritage, Luai has Samoan heritage, Coruscant has Samoan heritage, Junior Paulo and CSC for Talakai.
Yeah,
so
and then you're not even talking about the guys that are Tongan and etc. Like you go through the list, a lot of them could opt to play for other countries that aren't in the tier ones. Like
Tedesco plays for Italy, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Tedesco had played for Italy, I think, as a very young bloke.
Yes,
representative.
Yeah,
2013, 2017.
Yeah, us 5 years ago played for Italy.
Yeah, but
that's interesting.
I'd say it would be
How old's he now,
around
29.
So okay, so that's interesting. I knew that he had played for Italy. I kind of thought it was like as a 19-year-old kind of thing when
that would have been like Billy Slater era. Just
true.
It depends on the match as well. Like there might not have been an Australian match, it was a friendly against Italy versus Lebanon, for example, and he'll run out for Italy with Campese to show what's going on. So I think if you're talking about the pinnacle of the game and all that bullshit about Australia playing for Australia is the pinnacle,
which everyone knows it's not.
No, yeah. Well,
I'm sorry, but state of origin is the pinnacle. Like, of course, people want to wear the green and gold, but in terms of interest, you can't tell me that the Australia-New Zealand Test match or the Australian-England Test match brings more eyeballs and brings more interest than state of origin.
Yes, but you also
should it?
Exactly.
That's a good question.
If you want to
that's a good question.
Because if it's meant to be an Australian trial, then don't pick the Queensland, New South Wales teams. Go pick the Australia 1 and Australia 2 and get them to play against each other. Like you pick the two, you pick the Australia, like who's probably going to start, and you pick the guys that are competing back up, and that's your competition.
Here's the problem: the dynamic of the game in terms of the ethnicity of players has changed. Changed so dramatically. Yes, the country for one, but if you look at the amount of Polynesian players that there were in, say, the late '80s or early '90s. Yeah. When state of origin was becoming state of origin, it was virtually none.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you've got 50% of the league are Polynesian heritage players. So the problem that the dinosaurs, the Buzz Rothfields of the world, he's just the first person that comes to mind.
Buzz was one of the ones bitching about it.
That comes to mind.
I know Gordon was as well, Gordon Tallis.
It's a different game. It's a different game. So what do you say to all these Islander boys that are born, in Mount Druitt or in Western Sydney, and they want to play for New South Wales, but they've got this. Do we go and help Samoa, and make it a competitive World Cup? Because it makes, for me, I don't give a fuck, because I want to see the World Cup be interesting.
Yeah, and it's like for Toto, he's probably in the running for playing for Australia, but it's not a certainty that he's going to.
Not a certainty. I think he's in the best two wingers in Australia personally, but. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't bother me that he wants to play for Samoa, because I understand the family ties, and and if you want to have the international game grow, you can't have. You imagine all your Samoan players have to be born and bred and play in Samoa. It'd be terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
So just get run over.
I think just separate the two: state of origin, and the international games. The international game. They don't have. Yes, like playing for Queensland, New South Wales, probably going to help your chances to play for Australia, but I don't think it's a direct trial to then get, picked in the squad. So, the international rules are very lenient. I think it's either heritage or 4 years of residence. So, it's very easy to live in one country for a couple of years and be then eligible to play for it. So, yeah, I think it's separate them.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, which then, if that is the case, may allow the New Zealanders back into the conversation, because there's plenty of New Zealand guys that have played within Queensland. Same with or within New South Wales. Same with the Polynesians that have they've grown up, maybe born in New Zealand and then moved across. Same conversation. I think that's fair for them to be included in that class. It's representing the states.
Yeah, then I don't know, because if you open it up to New Zealanders, then it changed. Like this, there's going to be 5 or 6 guys that would be playing here as well. It's tough.
Yeah, I'd open it up.
You say open it up. I say leave it for Samoa and Tongan players. But I think it's maybe if we open up for New Zealand, it's going to be a very different product.
Oh, interesting.
And I think that came back to, I think this chat we had last year. Like,
yeah.
do you add that third team? Can you add a third team?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same. They actually did. I'm sure Super League did this. They had a three-way State of Origin series with New South Wales, Queensland, and New Zealand. But then that you're taking away from. I think. Would people be that interested? Well, I'm sure there'd be interest. Actually, there would be interest, but it's not the same if you're watching New South Wales versus New Zealand or Queensland versus New Zealand.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I mean, just in terms of the season, you'd be almost impossible to have like a three-way sort of series.
Yeah,
in between
exactly.
NRL games as well.
Do they play each other? You'd have to play each other twice, home and away. That's 6 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
To me, it's different levels. Like, yeah, you play, there's clubland, there's state, you're playing for your state, and then there's playing for your country, and they can be different.
Get us in the comments. Let us know what you think. And yeah, has Brian To'o done New South Wales and Australia a disservice, or play on and makes for the better viewing at the World Cup?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. AFL. Any better?
I think it needs to be deeper. I think you had
They sound like something off the Muppets.
Playing that back live in my head, it was giving me like faulty foghorn kind of, a ship that's maybe been built poorly or something. Doesn't have really a foghorn on it. Let's talk AFL round 17. We've got a new team at the top of the competition. It's all thanks to the Geelong Cats performance Thursday night down there in Geelong, running out 28-point winners against the former top of the table Melbourne Demons. It's the first time since round 3 that Melbourne haven't been atop of the AFL table, and a big performance from the smalls and the midfielders from Geelong. You'd think the Cats go out and kick 91 points. You'd think Tom Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron would have had something to do with it. No. Tomahawk kicked 1. Jez Cameron kept scoreless. Obviously, the D's defenders in Stephen May and Jake Lever are pretty handy. But they still got the job done via a good play from Mitch Duncan. He had 32 and 2. Danger had 31 positives. I think he kicked 4 behinds. It could have been a little bit worse. Cats go to the top of the AFL table. I tipped Geelong here, I think. It was a bit of a flip of a coin for me. I'm not really sure why I went Geelong. You'd think that matchup, with the Twin Towers being negated by the backs of Melbourne, they would have had something to do with it. But, did this surprise anyone? I think the odds were pretty much even money going into it.
Maybe not the results, but Geelong on top. Have they just slowly been sneaking away in the background here and have moved their way into this top conversation?
Not really. I don't think it's been. I think a lot of people have started to have Geelong as serious flag contenders. I think when Melbourne started.
Maybe they're just not talking enough about them. Like, we've been talking about the Lions and the Dockers, and,
I think
the Blues and in that conversation.
I think we talk about them because it's kind of fun.
Whereas the Cats is
they're always good. Yeah. I think that's probably why. I don't think they've really floated under the radar. And I think when Melbourne did go on that 3-game losing streak, a lot of people started thinking, maybe Geelong are the best team in the AFL, not the Melbourne Demons. As it stands, they are the best team in the AFL.
I think it's just a testament to the comp, and I guess compared to the NRL, like the Cats were sitting like 4th or 5th, only a few weeks ago. Yeah. And then now they're on top of the ladder, and it's because they're only got 1 or 2 games at most in between them. Whereas, NRL top 2 teams were fairly even. That's obviously changed in the last couple of weeks, but besides the top 2 teams, everyone else was.
There's more parity. Yeah. I agree. With Melbourne, going back to the NRL, the way the Melbourne Storm's been playing recently, it's kind of like who can beat Penrith kind of thing. Whereas in the AFL, you look at it and you're like, I could see 6 or 7 of these teams winning a flag, perhaps. So I think that the league probably has a little bit more parity. But I don't think Geelong flew under many people's radar per se.
Under the radar in the sense that no one had been talking about them recently because Geelong good. Unsurprisingly.
I think, I agree. I hate to repeat myself, but I'll do it anyway. I think, maybe we've been talking a bit more about Brisbane and Freo and Carlton because, 2 of us are fans of 2 of those teams, and Freo's kind of been a little bit unexpected in their play. Swans, Dogs. It was a replay of the 2016 Grand Final. Fun tidbit as well. Sharks and Storm played the 2016 Grand Final. So it's 2016 Grand Final round, if you will. Different result in this one, though. The Swans belted the Bulldogs, 120 to 67. They would have got a bit of a spray, I reckon, from old Horse Longmire. After that shock loss to Essendon last week, I watched this game and it was very one-sided traffic. Dominated the entire game. Isaac Heaney had 4 goals. The scoreline could have blown out a little bit more with Tom Papley and Buddy both kicking 2 goals, 5. Only 4 of the Dogs players had 20 plus. Still no Bailey Smith. I think he's good to go next week. That's 4 weeks without Baz Alenka. And
Lost their winning ways.
Yes. I think they've gone 2-2 in the Bailey Smith suspension period. And a bit of a statement for the Swans who would have been reeling after that loss to the Bombers. Holy crap, Monk's just chucked this game on. The Bombers have a 19-point lead against the Brisbane Lions at the moment.
Yeah, I was actually going to change my tip because probably expected. The Lions have
COVID, injuries, etc.
Yeah, they've got almost 10 guys out, I think. So, not great for them.
I wondered why the line was so low for Brisbane in this game. I think it finished at 22 for Brisbane at home here. And then I looked at the team list. Yeah. So COVID, no Harris Andrews, no Dan McStay, no Archie, no Coleman, and then injuries to Dan Rich, Dane Zorko, Jared Berry.
Yep.
And
good list.
And what happened with the Hipwood judiciary? Did you read up on this? Fine. So
that was for shoving the dude into the dumpy.
So they ruled it not careless.
No, yeah. So I think what happened there, Gardner just sort of changed his line. So Hipwood was running for the ball. I think he was run for the mark. And Gardner sort of moved into his line and sort of stopped dead. So it was kind of like he pushed him, but it was because
he had no choice.
He had no other option. Yeah,
according to them.
Yeah, and I think all the views were pretty damning, except for when you look at the view from behind the goal. Mm-hmm. And the juice tribunal were just like, I guess it's just play on.
Sure.
So he got away with that. Fine, I guess.
Interesting to see what happens here in the last 15 minutes. I'm sure we can keep you updated.
Still lots of football.
It'd be massive for the Bombers if they get 2 in a row. 2 pretty big scalps too. Yesterday's games, the Roos went so close but so far. They had lost their last 11 games by 40 plus. They had a 4-goal lead going into 3/4 time here against the Magpies. We were concerned about Darcy Moore last week. He did have that nasty hyperextension of his knee. Scans revealed no structural damage. I don't think he played yesterday, but he'll be good to go for the rest of the season. And it was 3/4 of Roos playing well into a Collingwood masterclass in the 4th quarter. Darcy Cameron kicked 3. There was a Dacos goal. Dacos kicked, I think it was Josh kicked to Nick, who finished, I believe, from watching the highlights, and Steele side bottom with the go-ahead with 3 minutes to go. Nick Larkey kicked 5 in a losing side. Heartbreak for North fans all round.
What do you think of Horn Francis playing VFL?
It's not good, is it? It's highly concerning for North fans. It's maybe more of an insight into his future and him possibly not playing at that club next year.
Yeah. Where there's smoke, there's probably fire.
Yeah.
I think is where we're at now with that.
Yeah. And early on, I was kind of like, he went to Adelaide. He didn't tell the club. He probably should have told the club, but not reading it into it too much. Media beat up, yada, yada, yada. And then each week that goes by, it just kind of seems less and less likely that Jason Horne-Francis is a shin boner for the long term.
Yep.
Did you guys see the highlights of this one? Absolute scenes up on the Gold Coast, especially for Gold Coast Suns fans. They ran out 2-point winners against the Richmond Tigers. We'll talk about Dusty in a sec. Let's talk about the game first. So the Suns were trailing by 40 points late in the third quarter, and it was about 28 points, I think, at three-quarter time. They were able to chase down the Tigers, and then every kid's dream or nightmare, depending on how good of a kick of the footy you are, Noah Anderson took the mark inside 50. After the siren, the Suns were down 4 points at the time of the kick, so had to kick the goal. And he absolutely flushed it from I'll say 40 out and a slight angle to the right, straight down the middle. Pandemonium for the 18 Gold Coast Suns fans in there, and the Suns win. The Tigers capitulate. 3 goals to Mabio Chol, who I think that would have been a sweet game for him. Unwanted by the Richmond Tigers last year. He has 34 on the season, more than Jack Riewoldt, just quietly. And Shea Bolton, good in a losing side, 29 posies, 3 goals. Should we talk Dusty, boys? Dusty, he missed the game. He had a low-grade hamstring, it seems, low-grade. The media now, are the media just, are they entitled to go to a bloke's house and,
sit on his front gate waiting for him
sit on his front gate and act like a swarm of seagulls down at the beach trying to just fight for that last chip? Or is Dusty within his right to give them the cold shoulder and not comment on the status of his hamstring injury?
I think if he's
at his house.
He's at his house, like buzzing in his front gate with the window
injured.
down, and they're like,
know that he's had mental health issues this year.
Yeah, and the media's like, Dusty, you playing this week, kind of thing, and he's just like, but I don't want to comment. And he, trying to fob him off essentially.
Yep.
Then drive up into his property. Like, I think that's the worst place you could potentially try to get insider information from. Journos go be journos, but fuck them.
I agree. Yeah,
there's training and press conferences.
It's paparazzi kind of aspects of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's not journalism.
I get it's
It's
Melbourne.
great. It's not journalism. I like that, Monks. It's not journalism.
Yeah, it's clickbait shit. So
yeah. And look, the other side of the story, the side that Kane Corns took, and possibly appealing to maybe more of the dinosaur crowd. He went pretty far in using the word petulant from Dusty on SEN. And he said that he owed it to the fans to give them an injury update. Some interesting comments coming through.
I'm pretty sure that's what the coach's job is.
Yeah.
There's set press conferences to have these conversations.
I mean, that's it. Like, Dusty would have to go through
there's
the
team
process. Like,
don't team lists come out on a Tuesday?
Yeah.
There's a whole gamemanship behind it as well. Like,
it's inside information. Like the team lists come out on a Tuesday night,
Thursday
night. But either way, that still gives you enough time to maybe get your tickets and then get down on the ground. Like if you're Tigers fans, you're probably not. You also, yes, you want to see Dusty, but he's not the only reason you go to show watch a Tigers game.
And nearly every single comment on the social media posts that I was reading regarding the story was Tigers fan here. Leave Dusty alone. He doesn't owe us anything. He's given us 3 premierships and been exactly, pretty much that. And it was like hundreds and hundreds of comments in the same kind of
vein.
Exactly. And then a lot getting stuck into Kane Corns. Grand final, belting at the hands of Geelong Cats, etc., back at Kane. I think what Kane had also said was something along the lines of, well, sure, he doesn't like the media. It's well known that he's doesn't like the media. Everyone knows that he's coming back from a mental health break. Yeah. Could he just say, I'm not sure on my status. It's a hammy at the moment. No further comment.
But he's not doing a fucking press conference outside his house.
I agree.
No. Yeah. There's a time and place for it.
That's a devil's advocate from me, and I agree 100%. Yeah. There was also comments in there like, Kane Corns or anyone else that thinks he has to give a press conference at his house. I hope you'd be happy for lots of people to come bang on your door tomorrow and give a press conference after you've just been to the doctor, which is essentially what's going on. Exactly. What's going on? Yes.
Fuck him.
Mm. How was your prostate exam, Kane? Did he use 2 fingers?
Were you full or half?
Oh, we went there. Oh, Jesus. Anyways, it does seem to be a low-grade hamstring. Let us know if you're listening, if you think the media have the right to go to people's houses and berate them for a injury update. And as a fan, do you care, or would you rather your players be, their privacy being respected, and don't really give a shit about them giving a comment at their house? The Dockers, they continue their winning ways with a 41-point what am I after here? Disposal, sure, of the Saints dismantling.
Dismantling, bro.
Yeah, it all works. 40-point win. So.
Dysphagia, I think that's the medical term for not being able to spit out your words. Maybe that's what what was on my mind then. Andy Brayshaw probably gets a 3 Brownlows again. He had 36 disposals, 10 tackles and a sausage roll. Nat Fyfe, looking like old Nat Fyfe, 3 goals. There was a photo doing the rounds this week. The rig. To quote, I believe it's Seth Rogen in the movie Bad Neighbours, his arms look like big veiny dicks. And that is exactly what they look like. Big, veiny dicks. He kicked 3 goals. Michael Frederick, who's fast becoming one of my favourite players to watch in the AFL. He's very silky, very fast. He kicked 3. And Sean Darcy, we'd start talking, we've been talking about him, in the elite conversation. Is he up there with Maxi Gawn and Brodie Grundy? Hard to assess Grundy at the moment because he's been hurt. Yes. I think yes. I think you can have 3 blokes in the elite conversation for the elite tier, unless you put Max in a tier of his own, but I don't like that. Put Sean Darcy in the elite tier.
Both those other guys have been injured recently, and Darcy's been playing very well.
Indeed. 16 disposals, 27 hit-outs, 2 goals. Interesting matchup next week. Freo play the Swans. So that's, both teams that are kind of trying to press for that top 4, trying to state their claim as premiership contenders. Mm-hmm. And then the Saints, they'll be reeling after this loss, but they go and play the Dogs. So that's, 2 of those teams that are kind of vying to try and get into the 8. So
where is that Freo's Swans game?
It's in Perth. I'm pretty sure, next week. So
favouritism to them.
Yeah, definitely so. The Power, they won comfortably last night at the Adelaide Oval, 84-29.
Are they still in the hunt?
Yeah, they're 12th. So look at that ladder there. So
they're the last one.
They're the last one, exactly. So we've spoken, in the last few weeks, obviously lines through North and the Eagles, lines through the Bombers and Hawks, and you can definitely say confidently now lines through Crows and Giants. We have 12 teams vying for that top 8, which is very close. So Port, Gold Coast, and Western Bulldogs only a win out. No, 16. So we've got 6. This is 17. So there should be six games to go, I believe. Connor Rosé, he kicked 4. Giants stunk. That's all I've got on that. The Lions and Bombers, maybe we can get the last 5 to 8 minutes of that up. 9 minutes left, 13 points in it. And then we've got Hawks Crows this afternoon at Marvel, and followed by the Blue Baggers going out west to take on the West Coast Eagles at Optus Stadium. Monks, I can do it. You just keep that footy up there as we've got Hugh McLuggage lining up a kick
suitcase
for Brisbane. Yeah. The suitcase, he's pushed it left. Just looking at this ladder.
He had it up a second ago.
That's all right. And I've got it here. Geelong, 48 points. Melbourne, 48 points. Freo, 48 points. So we've got a sort of 3 teams up there on 12 and 4. Brisbane looking to join them at 12 and 4 here, pending the result of this game. Then we've got Collingwood on 44, Sydney Swans on 40, Carlton 40, pending their result this afternoon. Then Richmond...
Big game, actually, for the Blues, I'd say.
Massive, massive.
Miss out on that.
Should win. But, yeah, you drop a game to West Coast, and the Blues have got some tough... I was looking at their run home. There is some tough games for Carlton, so you really need to win.
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams chasing you as well.
Yeah.
The Tigers also trying to stay in there.
Yeah, Tigers, Saints, Dogs, Suns, Port. So only four points separates those 5 teams. So, yeah, like we're talking about at the start of the AFL segment, a fair bit of parity in the league, a lot of teams that could, potentially win the whole thing. And, a lot of teams will be jostling now for those 8 positions.
Well, it's good. The 12 teams at 500 or above. So, it's quite a close competition this year. Indeed.
Let's talk some NBA. Not as crazy a week compared to last week. We had big trades and massive deals getting signed. There was 2 blokes that signed good deals: Darius Garland for the Cleveland Cavaliers and Zion Williamson. They both signed max rookie extensions. So I think they end up being about 5 years, 190 odd mil. And one of the funnier trade requests. This one, it was like a trade.
Did you see the Lakers one there as well?
No, I haven't seen the Lakers one.
Yeah, they asked for LeBron, 3 picks and something else for KD.
For LeBron and 3 picks for KD.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
There's
That's less ridiculous than this one.
Yeah,
because at least LeBron, you're like, he can't play till he's 50. Like he's gonna have to, hang up the sneakers soon. But this one was the Nets asking the Timberwolves, would you accept for Kevin Durant, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and 4 first-round picks, six players for KD? It really screamed of, anyone that's played sort of 2K or Madden or FIFA. You just kind of throw the CPU, a ridiculous trade, and just see what happens. See
if the AI picks it up or not.
Yeah, and then the AI always picks it up because I know in Madden you'd get grades given back, and if
big fat F.
That would be an F. Yeah, that would be an F coming back at you straight up.
That kind of value is you're trying to essentially say that KD is the best player in the competition
by a long way.
Yes,
by a long way. It's a joke, and
the question is that fair value? And I don't think so.
I don't think so. Like KD's good. He's definitely top 5.
Yeah,
he's definitely top 5. But it's not like he's the clear
GOAT.
Yeah, exactly. Head and shoulders above anyone else in the league at the moment. So yeah, it's stupid and it's kind of disrespectful and waste of time and the rest of it. And you kind of wonder where the Brooklyn Nets management is now. If they're throwing out shit like this, I think they're starting to get a bit desperate.
Yeah, I agree. Desperate. They know they're probably going to lose out and in a full rebuild and just going to be left with Ben Simmons and all right, now what the fuck are we going to do? let's get as many pieces as we can for the current bits we've got.
The Brooklyn Boomers with Simmons and Mills. Mm-hmm. And 2K23, now there's a bit of news, there's a bit of fake news, I think, here, but it's worth discussing. So there's going to be a normal version, which will have Devin Booker as the cover athlete. They're also going to have a Michael Jordan edition. I don't really know what the extras are with the Jordan edition, but Jordan's on the cover, and he's going to be the first ever 100 in 2K history. I think FIFA did this a while back, maybe with Ronaldo and maybe Messi being 100 for the first time ever. Not sure. Don't know if I'm talking shit. Often do. There's also going to be a version with the WNBA athletes Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird featuring on the cover. Couldn't get Brittany Griner's picture, unfortunately. You following this one at all, Brittany Griner?
In Russia?
Yes.
Yeah.
She had CBD. She was over in Russia making a bit of bank, and had CBD in a vape canister, and is being held by Russian authorities at the moment. She's been there for 4 months and she's facing 10 years prison.
Yeah, it's also whether semi big time athlete, like well known American athlete in Russia at the time of the war kicking off.
Well, she's there playing basketball.
Yeah, no, but as in the
get out of there. Is that what you're saying?
No, well, they're from the Russian perspective. Like that's a nice one to pick up and keep in your back pocket. So,
of course, they want trade. We want trade. You give us arms dealer.
Well,
arms dealer for Brittany.
I think that's what's happened. So she has ended up pleading guilty to the charges.
Yep,
and allegedly to do some sort of prisoner swap, she would have had to have pleaded guilty. So I think this is going up to like the higher powers, sort of political government sort of stuff where it's
outside the Esky, but you can see the writing on the wall there. They've power play.
Outside the Esky, no comment. We'll take on the Saudis, but not the Ruskies. And back to 2K and possibly fake news. I did see this, so I don't think it's real news. I think it's a good Photoshop of Russell Westbrook being a 72, allegedly, on the new 2K.
It was a parody Twitter post from.
It wasn't real.
Like
you got to be careful in the era of fake news. I saw that and I was like, wow, they've done Russell dirty. Jesus Christ. And the Twitterverse wasn't much nicer about it either. A lot of the comments going, how did he get 72? He should have been 40 or something. A lot of ticked off Lakers fans, I think, with poor Russ and his maybe lack of contribution or just by his lofty standards, perhaps, his lack of contribution this year to the Lakers. But it was a bit of fun, and always you got to check around the fake news. Double check what we say. We don't know fucking what we're saying half the time. So no evidence to suggest that Russell Westbrook will be a 72 on 2K this year, despite that doing the rounds this week.
It's actually interesting because Westbrook and Kyrie both took their player options, but Harden didn't, and is probably going to re-sign a deal which will have a player option in the second year, but it'll end up being less money. So he's taking less money to stay.
But yeah, okay.
So interesting kind of take considering the other two kind of guaranteed their contracts. I guess they're more looking like they're going to be traded, so they're guaranteeing that number for where they get their contract gets traded to. But yeah, it's interesting for Harden to then not do that and go a slightly different route.
Indeed,
and make a little bit more certainty and a little less money.
And just quickly back to 2K, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the screen grabs. The graphics are starting to get crazy good. Like, I think 2K has always been the leader in the sports arena for graphics. I suppose you don't have to animate as much. There's less players. It's smaller kind of area. So maybe that's why they get the better
much better
graphics
than the
going.
Rugby league games.
The old rugby league. Bring them back. That would be fun, weren't they?
You can tell they've improved the graphics because they just keep adding more sweat. So
yeah, they do. That gets released September 9.
Yeah. All the current this year's suite of sports games are coming out in the next couple
essentially,
of months.
yes. And the summer league's been going on. We've had a quick look at some of the draft picks out there. Dyson Daniels, the Aussie, he did have to leave his matchup with a right ankle sprain. Is there anything on that story, or are they awaiting scans? It's always hard in the basketball. Basketball, very Dusty Martin, if you will, in the way that they approach their injuries.
That's it.
It's definitely a no comment kind of league.
Yeah. Nothing really. There was one thing on Twitter where it alluded that there was a X-ray done and it turned up negative. So hopefully it's all just it's not serious. He's just twinged a little bit, and we'll be back playing very soon.
And Sean on my left here was not laughing at the Dyson Daniels ankle sprain. Rather, a fire comment there from Rick in the chats.
I've seen plenty of memes and stuff about this as well.
And we hadn't mentioned it, that the Summer League is handing out rings. They've just announced that there'll be rings.
Is it a tournament? Like, do they play a...
So I think there is a winner, but... I have seen, CP3 trying his luck next summer. Carmelo, some guys like that that never won.
Terrible.
That's funny.
Yeah. The Summer League ring. It's reminiscent of a lot of the trophies that I've got in my cabinet, I think,
Participation awards.
I was going to say, second grade runner-up, Tuggeranong Best and Fairest, a few coaches award or, a few, most improved kind of shit.
About as useful as a promise ring, but anyway. We'll keep going with the round ball.
Yeah, so other
From
round
hands
ball,
to feet.
the one that you kick. We said last week, United, they haven't fucking signed anyone. They've a pretty good signing here in Christian Eriksen. We saw him put Brentford on his back and sort of carry them through kind of any relegation scares. Actually had a pretty good season. Unfortunately, as tends to happen in soccer, if you put together a good season at a smaller club, some big club will snap you up, and Christian Eriksen goes to Manchester United. obviously the big talking point going the other way from Manchester United is Cristiano Ronaldo. What have you got in that article there, Monks? We were alluding to a possible return to La Liga, possibly being the most likely last week, although it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Don't know quite yet. So this report here that I've just got is a little bit more current news in terms of Ronaldo will not be travelling with United when they come across to Australia. I guess for one of the friendly matchups.
Yep.
Later
he's
this
not
month.
travelling.
So he's not travelling with the team, which I guess in a way is telling to some degree that he probably won't be sticking around, I guess. I don't know if Sean, have you got anything there?
Well, it's confirmed that he's not sticking around. Like he said, I don't want to be there.
Yeah, he wants to play Champions League.
Yeah.
And because of that comment, Chelsea's been sniffing around if he wants to, of course, stay in the EPL. And then PSG, we talked about that potentially going there and the goat farm, as you will.
I don't want PSG to just be able to buy a Champions League, but I don't know. It kind of would be cool, I guess, to see them playing together.
Yes.
But also, fuck that. Like,
we're talking about Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Imagine if they just did a classic PSG and get knocked out in the corner.
Too much infighting. They don't pass it to each other.
That's right, with the two goats. And look, we see it in basketball happen all the time.
I was going to say,
there's
going
no
back
guarantee.
to NBA, like Brooklyn Nets, didn't work for them.
There's no guarantee. But yeah,
but the other thing is, does it help their legacy? Like
playing together? No,
yeah, exactly.
No,
it's just because if they win one, they're just adding one to both of their resumes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. I don't know, unless it went to pens or something, and Messi got his pen, and Ronaldo missed.
Yeah. I was the reason we won, not you.
Raheem Sterling will be.
That was a big one.
He will be going to Chelsea. That is confirmed. He'll be in Sky Blue next season.
Yeah, there's been heaps of other movements around. A lot of more confirmed moves, not official.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, the move's going to happen. The transfer fee's been essentially
verbal agreements,
but it hasn't officially been happened yet. But yeah, a lot of movements. It's across the leagues and across the big teams. So yeah,
80 million, I think Chelsea paid for Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, big one there.
Only 27. He obviously burst out onto the scene as a youngster. That is 80 million AUDs. If you
yes.
Questioning that, yeah, 45 million pounds.
Yeah, pounds taking a bit of a beating the last couple of weeks as well. For some financial chat.
Yeah. Nice.
Before we move in the NFL, let's cover the AFL. The Bombers kicked a goal on the siren to win that game 100-90.
Okay, he's up and about. Big set. He's wearing the Sammy Draper shirt.
That's it. Where's the hat?
Where did that go?
Switch it out.
There you go.
That was big for them because that'll put them a game ahead of.
Yeah, because they lost to West Coast a couple of weeks ago. So
have they kind of cemented sixth at the moment?
What are you talking about?
No, sorry, no, sorry, I got that wrong.
Essendon sixth.
We've already put a line through them. Sorry, I was thinking of.
It's bad for Brisbane.
No, it's bad. It's definitely bad.
It's bad for
obviously.
It's more Brisbane than Bombers.
Banged up, but they did have a chance to, if they won this game, despite missing half of their troops, to go like equal first with the Cats, D's, and Dockers.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, my brain didn't work, so it's all good.
No, yeah, it happens.
Quite frequently.
Quite frequently. All right, I hope your brain's working for this segment because you put some time and effort into it. As I did mention at the top of the show, we're less than a month away until the preseason of the NFL starts. I know a lot of people think that the preseason in the NFL goes too long, et cetera, et cetera. You're probably right. But I do like following it because all three of us are fantasy football diehards, tragics, et cetera, et cetera. We all play in the same league How long have we been in that league? 10 years?
Yeah, it's 10 years.
About 10 years together. So obviously the bragging rights and the rest of it to go with it. So we're hoping to get a little bit of a NFL fantasy spin going into this preseason. The draft, what do we
April. It was about two and a bit months ago.
Geez, nearly 3 months ago. Since the NFL draft, we did watch it happen live here on the Esky. But Sean, you've done a bit of research. You've gone through your rookies, and you've sort of listed a few. I think we've got 12 here that we're going to talk about.
12 that I thought was interesting to pull out that had some good conversation for fantasy, because we're deep into fantasy land now as we lead into the preseason, as you were saying. A lot of guys getting, July is your prep for...
Is your prep?
You prep for your draft, and in August you watch your preseason, kind of confirm what you've been thinking about, and then hopefully you do your draft towards the end of preseason. And I feel sorry for all those that do it early and then get...
No, I don't feel sorry for you. Do it after the last preseason game, or at least that weekend, at least the last weekend, because you see it every year. It's tragic, but there are season-ending injuries, or there are injuries where guys are going to miss 6-8 weeks that happen in the preseason. Don't be a nuffy. Have your draft in or after the last preseason game has been played. Anyways, your number one rookie to watch. It's probably the consensus number one as well.
So I think the caveat there is he is the consensus number one, but I also think the value is not there.
We are talking about Breece Hall.
So, yes, we're talking about New York Jets running back Hall, who is going very high. His average draft position in probably the third or fourth round. So when I say that, he's going in the 30s for a 10-team league. That's about third or fourth round. To me... I've seen as high as the 7th RBO taken. I think 20th is his average. But even still, to me, that's all too high. I think, and I kind of don't understand why. I get people of maybe saying that, hey, he's going to take that job and he's going to have 1,200 yards and be, killer, and he's going to be a core part of your roster. But on that team, Michael Carter's still there, and they've got Coleman as well. They both had, Coleman was taking carries for Carter last year, and Carter is his second year, and also was very good last year on a team that has a coaching staff that likes to share the load. I just don't see the potential for that high kind of, touches that he's going to need to repay you for a third or fourth round in a 30th guy taken in that list. So I'd have to say, to me, that seems too high. He needs to move down a couple of rounds, probably into those 50s, 60s, where you're not relying on him to be one of your two starting running backs week in, week out. I just don't think he's worth that kind of value, noting where the competition that he's got on that team. And that team has a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, a lot of young players. So it's very hard to kind of pick a guy that has clear air to come in and start straight away at a running back position as a rookie. So a lot of risk there, not a lot of reward.
I agree with everything you're saying. I'm surprised that he's up there with consensus number one for all rookies. The first point being, it's hard for a rookie running back to go into the NFL and get bulk carries and bulk touchdown. That's going to be the issue as well. And at the New York Jets, how many touchdowns are they going to be scoring? Do you know what I mean? You don't see him going out there and having 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns.
And yes, he's got good, he was a good receiver. He can catch the ball. But then Carter was doing the same thing last year. They're going to be sharing that load. So I just don't see it. He's not in a situation like CEH was.
And again, but he was underwhelming as well. Everyone had him projected going as a top 10 running back.
Probably too high. And then, only got about 800 rushing yards that rookie year. Of course, a bunch of... They hit the wall, etc. But he had no one in that backfield as a comparison. The situation just isn't there for me for Hall. So I'd avoid until he drops past the 50 range, and you can get him there as a, maybe he's your first running back as a potential flex. A guy that you could more step in than have to start week in, week out.
Oh yeah, I'm going to agree with you 100% here. I wouldn't be confident going into a fantasy season with Breece Hall being my RB1.
Yep.
Possibly as an RB2 or as a flex. Yeah. Drake London
then is the next highest rated. As a rookie, probably one of the top wide receivers, just because of the situation, because they've got no one. Pitts is the only other option, very much there as a seeing threat. In the passing game, of course, you got Patterson, who does it all. But that's, as a wide receiver, he's in that room for the Falcons. He's all that they have available there. The biggest issue is probably going to be quarterback play because it's not Matt Ryan throwing the ball anymore. It is Mariota, who did all right for the Raiders, but also maybe not going to have the most passing attempts. Does a little bit with his legs, but he's not a Lamar Jackson in any way, shape, or form.
No,
but he's a step down. Like he's a tier 3 kind of quarterback. So you're taking a risk there. But he has the size. He's going to get a lot of red zone looks. And in the 90s as an average draft position, your 9th round, where it's a guy that can potentially sit on your bench for a little while, play in a flex depending on the matchups, etc. That's not a bad way to draft it. Because he could score 10 touchdowns this year.
He's going to have to be their wide receiver 1.
Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of forced in a position, and I think he's more of a good stash as well for those in the keeper league. Because Mariota's probably not their long-time quarterback. We'll have to see what they do next year, but there might be a completely different situation there where then London takes a bump with a new quarterback. So it's kind of guy, yes. Maybe you can play him a little bit early, play him more matchups, but at least you've got him on your bench and you can pick and choose and hopefully get like that mid-season bump where maybe he catches on and get some good chemistry with Mariota. One of those ones, confirm in the preseason, see what that looks like.
These are the other options in the wide receiver room for the Atlanta Falcons. Auden Tate, Olamide Zacchaeus, and Brian Edwards. Not exactly household names.
Yeah, and Zacchaeus is going to be getting some raps
as well.
He
got a little bit last year in the Ridley break. But yeah, it's going to be. He's going to have to swim in the NFL. It's sink or swim this league, and he's going to have to swim.
Yeah, and the Falcons have a few kind of tasty options potentially because of their just lack of talent in the skill positions. Yeah. It's very much unknown. One guy might step up and take it all, or maybe they play a bit of team ball, but you can't be certain on any of it.
Feel for Kyle Pitts as well. A little bit, losing Matt Ryan, the highest drafted tight end ever. Hopefully, it doesn't hurt his career too much. Yeah,
as well. Yeah. So, for a guy that's a tight end, semi-playing wide receiver as well, then having being double teamed, it's not great for him.
The third rookie here that we're talking about is Treylon Burks. He is over at the Tennessee Titans, who they traded away AJ Brown. Does he get the same looks as AJ, or is Bobby Trees going to be their wide receiver 1?
That's the question, and from our draft special how full I was for Burks throughout that. So I really like him in this team. And, probably the difference with London is he's got Ryan Tannehill as a confirmed kind of quarterback option. But you got to remember Henry's back in that team. They're probably going to run fuckload more, which did hurt both AJ Brown, like their numbers. They had one true wide receiver, and with Woods there, does that mean there's shared load? He's not going to get as many opportunities. It'll be interesting to see. But I will say, if Willis gets a run at all, that it all goes out the window, and I'd say park anything Tennessee Titans related, except for Henry. He'll get 4,000 touches a game if that's the case. If they go to the rookie, I think they'll stick with Tannehill at least as long as they're doing well. They'll stick with Tannehill as long as if it starts turning bad, then they'll have to rejig and do something else. But I think I like Burks, in that 90 to 100 round range for an average draft position. I like him a little bit more than London with the QB situation. Another guy that's stash, see what happens mid-season, and then hopefully pull him off the bench and into your starting lineup.
And I agree with Tannehill. The game plan with Tannehill has been feed Henry and don't turn the ball over, and it's worked pretty well for Tennessee recently. I'd be surprised if we see Malik Willis outside of injury early on, but who knows? And they might try to use him sort of as a sort of gadget man as well, whereas Tannehill's their QB1, but then they get Malik in there, on design runs or option plays.
And I think all that blends nicely for Burks because he's kind of got more gritty size than Woods does. Like Woods is an elite big boy, route runner and a wide receiver, whereas Burks I think could do it all for you really. So he's going to be involved in a lot of situations. So he's definitely going to get a lot of playing time. It's just what's his target share going to look like? How much touches is he going to get? Time will tell.
The fourth fantasy rookie here that we're looking at is Kenny Walker. He is at Seattle now. You think maybe similar similar to Breece Hall?
Yeah, he's getting a lot of reps. His average draft position is better. But I think everyone still forgets that Penny's still there. And Penny, I think, had the best last 6 weeks of the year.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
was like
He lit it up.
RB1. He lit it up. They do have Chris Carlson coming back on a team that likes to run the ball. So they're definitely going to run. He's going to get a lot of touches. But he's also, on a bad team with unknown quarterback potential, probably going to be playing from behind with arguably one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I question it in the 90s. It's more of an acceptable risk than I think Hall was. But it's not a guy I'd be looking for anything impressive early. If anything, I think Penny is probably the favourite in that locker room to take that ball on. So, I'd probably leaving Walker and looking at him late.
And obviously, we'll have more of an indication as to who's going to be the RB1 after these preseason games. But for me, I think I like Hall better than Kenny Walker in that. Like you say, plenty of mouths to feed there with Rashad Penny and Chris Carson, and just game situation. I don't see the Seahawks being a very good team this year. You don't really get running backs, scoring big, big fantasy. Games in games where they have to chase. The only thing is he a better receiving option perhaps than the other two? Can in a PPR league? They're behind in games. Is he going to get a few dump offs? But it'd be interesting to see what happens in the preseason.
And he definitely has that. So it's all potential. But I think it's weighing up the risk and depending what the options are. Like where he is in the 90s is a potential 9th round. Mid to late tier pick, that's a good place to pick rookies anyway and just stash them. So, there's probably 2 other guys on that list that maybe have a better situation than him and potentially go later. So we'll talk about those in a minute.
The next bloke we're talking about is Jameson Williams. He's wide receiver at Detroit. Killed it in college ball, but obviously coming off it's ACL Rico, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And James, do you have any
Yeah.
recent news on where he is injury-wise?
No, not recent. I'm just reading it up now.
We probably won't get much more until they get into training camp for preseason.
I think that'll be it, whether he's able to show up for training camp.
Yeah, we knew he'd been training before the draft, and it's been probably close to 6 months since the injury. So most likely he'll start on the PUP, the PUP, to listen, which means he'll miss the first 8 games, I think, is the requirement for that.
Is it 8 on the PUP list? Wow.
Yeah. But we'll have to see if he can avoid that or not. My thinking there is I do really like him. People are really high on St. Brown because he got all the targets last year.
Yeah, late in the year especially.
Exactly. And, they do have Goff there, an established quarterback. So they've got a good option there. Goff's probably not a top 10 QB, but he's a second tier. He's in that middle there, and he can definitely get the job done and can throw the football. So I think the idea is, can Williams get healthy? Can he get because I think as soon as he gets healthy, he's going to take a large portion of this. I agree. Of this target share very, very quickly.
Based on pure talent, arguably the most talented receiver in this draft class.
Yeah, and St. Brown got 100 plus targets easily. I think he could definitely sneak into stealing some of those from him. So he's one of those guys, take late and look for that bump in that mid-season if you want to stash and hold on to him. Or if no one picks him, watch him and watch the health. Because when he comes on, I think he's definitely going to do a job for you there. And I think he's in the 150s as an average. So, right towards the end of your draft, that's a good one just to add, especially for a keeper ad.
I was hoping, you were going to say it. Yeah. Keeper league.
Yeah,
if you're in a keeper league, Jameson, dynasty leagues, Jameson Williams is definitely one to have an eye on. If you want immediate impact, obviously him being on most likely being on the PUP list, he's not the guy to go for. But if you're in one of those longer leagues, definitely someone to keep an eye on. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the New York Jets. Thoughts?
Yeah, so probably following on that same New York Jets conversation, very young team, lots of mouths to feed. I did like Elijah Moore, very much last year. They do have Corey Davis there as well. So they've got established options. Plus they've got the 2 to 3 running backs that we mentioned as well. They've got a lot of talent, young talent on this team. So it'll be interesting to see how that divides out into, market share of the targets within that. So I like Wilson, but I also hesitant. I like Moore, probably more. I think Moore is going slightly behind Wilson from memory in the average draft position. But also you got to remember Zach Wilson is going to be the quarterback and he really needs to take a second-year leap for any of these guys to be worthwhile. If anything, there's too many mouths to feed in the side receiver's room with probably not enough good quarterback play to feed both of them. He's in the 120s. It's probably still okay, 12th round. That's probably good, but I just like more as an established option there as a guy that's probably going to get the target share early. It's again, wait and see. None of these guys on this list really scream out starters straight away.
Yeah.
They're more like stash them, pick them up later, and see what happens.
Probably my favourite one to watch in this rookie list, the Green Bay Packers' Christian Watson. Now, obviously, a lot of media coverage around the departure of Devontae Adams. Who becomes the wide receiver 1 at Green Bay?
Yeah, and that's the big question because there's a lot of veterans there, and what have they got?
Lazard, Cobb,
etc.
Watkins, Amari Rogers, who they drafted second round last year.
Yeah, and Watkins, he's I think on his 6th team of underperforming to what people are expecting him to be. So, as your mongrels probably can attest to.
Yeah, few years where I've had Sammy Watkins, rocks or diamonds. He'll give you a 40 game, 40-point game here and there,
and then a month of nothing.
Exactly.
So Watson is probably the most talented in that room, and I guess the question is going to be chemistry because the veterans will start ahead of him. That I think is going to be a definite. It's just he's one of those ones. Preseason. Watch what he does. See if he's got that connection with Rodgers, and see potential for again another one of those guys mid-season bump that can gets in there, can take over that probably that second wide receiver role, maybe that deep threat role that MVS had last year, and could probably score you touchdowns because he's got the frame, he's got the size to be a red zone threat. And another guy in the 160s, late average draft position, another great stash to have there. Of the wide receiver stash, I do really like Watson towards the end.
Yep.
Of your draft.
I don't know if it's just Packers bias from myself, but I probably would have him just behind Treylon Burks in terms of rookie wide receivers. Obviously, we spoke about the injury concerns around Jameson Williams and the mouths to feed at the New York Jets. I'd probably have him as the second best rookie receiver here.
Preseason is going to be a very big tell for him because he did, of course, come out of North Dakota State, like another school that's not well known, whereas the other guys played in bigger known schools, bigger competition. So, it is a big step up for him, and preseason will tell whether he's going to be up for it or not. And with Aaron Rodgers slinging him the ball, best of the quarterback situation, that's the best one to be in. So he's a nice stash for a guy that you're hoping to be a wide receiver too, and you never know, maybe he can take a big leap very quickly.
Boy, North Dakota State, bro. Carson Wentz and Trey Lance, they're a big time school these days.
Yes.
Allegedly,
yes. They, they've got talent that comes out of them, but they've dominated that league for so long.
Yeah,
like they were undefeated for like 3 years running or some shit.
Yeah, really. Yeah, go Bisons.
Anyway,
Bisons or Bison?
Bison.
Multiple Bison. I think multiple Bison.
And then the next 4 ended up being my interesting running backs there. So. Was it Damon Pierce?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Damon or Damon Pierce, running back for Houston.
So he's got a bit of a clearer path to playing time than some of the others do because they just got a whole bunch of nothing at the Texans. They got Burkhead and they've got Mack there, Marlon Mack, but they're not they're retreads. They're not established options.
Yeah, exactly.
And Lovie Smith, I believe, is the head coach there, so he's going to love to run the ball.
Especially with Davis Mills at the helm.
So, yeah, he could very quickly find himself in a starting role there with not many other guys trying to steal from him either. So, he could very easily take that job and run with it going forward. Which, for a guy getting picked in the 140s, late very rounds, that's off the list. Like, that's an excellent one to pick up and stash. For those guys looking for, maybe you've gone the zero RB strategy, or you're looking for an RB to add later to potentially, keep or be a rookie sensation. Like, he's one that you can see a direct path to potentially starting there. So I do really like him. He's got good size for the position. So drafted late, I think it was a fourth round from memory, fourth or fifth round. But I guess the biggest concern with the RBs in this rookie class is it wasn't a great rookie class for draft class for running backs this year. So that's a caveat, I guess, for a lot of them. And another reason, probably downhaul a little bit is that, it wasn't the best class for running backs this year.
Another running back to talk of, the man that found our country down here, down under, James Cook.
Still kicking around.
Namesake at least. He's going to be at Buffalo. What do we think here? Maybe a weaker running back room, maybe a favourable place to end up for him?
Same thing. Like, brother Dalvin was gifted with more size. James probably will get the scat back tag, being a little bit of the skinnier, but he is also an electric talent. I think the big change is, like you said, suspect running back room that has under-delivered. But in that team, the Buffalo team, they love... Well, their best running back is the quarterback in Josh Allen.
Yeah, definitely in terms of touchdowns.
And they do like to play four wide. So I think he could have a lot of potential playing time as the running back that'll catch a fuckload of balls. He can help do the play action with Allen there, and they can. I think he just fits that offensive team so well. So I think that's probably where you could see him getting a lot of playing time and a lot of ball early. So another guy that will, I think, what's he going? In the hundreds. So he's going a little bit earlier than the others, but still mid-tier. But, on a good team, good quarterback situation, can catch the ball and probably going to, I think on that depth chart, he's already second, and he'll play a lot on that team. He'll get a lot of game time because of the system that they run.
Elite speed as well, ran a 4.42. So definitely that will bode well for him as being the scat back, the receiving back for the Buffalo Bills. Tyler Algier, is that his Algier?
Better attempt than I would have made.
Atlanta. That's why I had a crack. What's your read on this guy?
If you read anything rookies, he's basically the top of the list for breakouts, sleeper ones, purely because on the Falcons, like we talked about, devoid of skill of talent. I think they could be a hot favourite for being a top 5, if not the first pick in next year's draft, because I think everyone under them, take like the Jets, the Jags, etc., have done enough to improve, whereas I think they've taken a step backwards. Big thing, no Mike Davis. So no established running back except for Patterson, who you didn't think was a running back, then became one.
Yeah, and I had to eat my words week in and week out. They did pick up Damian Williams from Kansas City.
Yes. So besides that, there's not a real established there, and it's whether Patterson can take the complete load for the entire year is the question. A lot of people going with the risk that probably not. So the reward is, well, Pierce has the size as a full-time workhorse running back. I think he's 5'11", 220-ish. So he's got the size to be...
He's nuggety,
yeah. So Tyler could definitely step in there and do a job for them, and is probably going to get touches early. So have to see. And preseason.
Exactly. See how they use him.
Yeah, 150 average draft position, another one of those rookies. They're getting stuck there, and I think that's perfect for a guy that, good time to take a risk on him, see what he can be, whether he'll steal that position, whether Patterson gets injured with that workload, who knows.
Rashad White, the last running back that we'll be talking about, the last rookie running back in this list, over at Tampa Bay, Monks' team. Obviously, won't be getting the starting job because they've got Lenny Fournette, but they did lose, they traded away Rojo.
Yeah, Ronald Jones, which I think's the big reason for him being here, because Fournette's getting like RB10 second round. I think average of like 17 is an average draft pick, very high. For a guy that's had 2,000 rushing yard seasons, and alternates between that with missing most of the season and being injured. So I think one thing is I'd be very avoid Fournette early in the draft. Let someone else make that risk and have him as an RB1 or 2. And probably target White as a guy that, if that does happen, is going to probably step straight in as the starter there for Tampa Bay. And again, great quarterback situation. They've got skill positions, got a good offensive line. Like, he's a good one to pick up and stash. Definitely. And he's in the 160s, has a kind of a clear story to potential playing time. I guess it will depend on if Fournette, and do I see Fournette getting 20 carries a game for the 17 games and lasting that long? Probably not. So he's definitely going to get playing time early and could potentially be the fill-in if any injuries do happen to Fournette there.
The last rookie that we're going to mention, we have to talk about a quarterback, and the top quarterback taken in the 2022 NFL draft was Kenny Pickett. Obviously, quarterbacks, unless you're in a 2-quarterback lead, which is pretty unusual, you've kind of got your top 10, 12 guys that you look at, and then anyone outside of that you probably disregard. Is Kenny Pickett worth looking at as a top 10 to 12 guy?
Yeah, but we're not going to have Lamar Jackson rookie season out of Kenny Pickett, I don't think. Yep. And I'm happy to eat my words here, but it was a down rookie class. He's arguably behind the worst offensive line in the NFL. They're completely retooling it. They've got 2 guards, and that's about it. He's also got to win the job too.
Well, that's right. There's no guarantee that he starts with Trubisky there and Mason Rudolph.
There's no real guarantee for the rookie quarterbacks. I'd avoid this rookie quarterback class. Focus on the running backs and wide receivers mentioned above.
So, take-home messages. Who did we like? We kind of liked Drake London. We kind of like Burks. We kind of like Watson, the receivers.
Yes, Watson, yep. And then probably...
For running backs, who do you like the most?
Probably like Pierce, Cook, and what was the last one? Algier.
Yeah.
I
doubt either of us are saying that, right?
No, yeah. Tyler, we prefer those 3 as late stashes for potential direct playing time capability.
A little bit of news in the NFL just quickly. The big one from the week was Baker Mayfield getting traded to the Panthers for a 5th round pick. Sucked in Cleveland, I think, essentially. I thought Baker a little bit hard done by in their treatment of him. Obviously, we've spoken over the last few weeks about Deshaun Watson looking less and less likely to be able to play this season, if ever. And he will go and, you'd imagine, get the starting job over there at the Carolina Panthers. They did draft Matt Corral, but
they have Sam Darnold still there, so
Sam Darnold,
they have the first and third overall from the same draft.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
so,
true.
Yeah. Apparently, they paid Darnold as well, so they've invested a lot of money in him.
Okay.
So I think it's interesting as well, just looking at the contract notes for Mayfield. So Cleveland still has to pay $10.5 million.
Yeah, and they play week 1 against
each other.
Yeah. So yes, they'll be paying 2 quarterbacks in the game, and none of them will be playing for the Browns by the looks of it. So
that's it.
Yeah, it's such a kind of a shitty situation, and I think, and with Rosen kind of flaming out as well. The 2 guys with the biggest question marks in Allen and Lamar in that draft class have been the 2 to step up the most. So it just kind of shows you what can happen in a draft class at Mitchell Trubisky.
could have had Mahomes.
Or Watson before he,
I'll take Mahomes, thanks.
So the Browns also have been trashing. I'm assuming it's coming from the Browns, all the leaks about how the players don't like Baker and he was immature in that and didn't know the game plan, etc. So there's no love lost there by the sounds of it between the 2. Fresh start for Baker. We'll have to see what happens. with the Panthers going forward. Rodney Anderson had to. We didn't apologise. I think he was like, he was taken out of context.
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
He's
that as in, hey, I'm not going to get any deep balls if Baker's.
Well, I think he's when asked about Baker, he said something like, hell no, or no. He wasn't interested in it. So, that'll be an interesting conversation for them to have working in it.
Yeah, anyway. Trent Williams, first 99 overall in Madden, talking about sports. First offensive lineman to get a 99 overall.
Is that ever?
Ever, yes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So great job for him, kind of recognising his elite play recently. And joins the class, I think there's 6 99 overalls.
In the next Madden, have they released it?
It's coming up. So they're same as where they were doing with the 2K. Like they're all releasing kind of the grades and the media hype for the next game.
Yeah.
So I think Donald was one. I can't remember. TJ Watt and I can't remember the rest. Oh, Adams. That was another one.
Oh, yep.
Devonta Adams.
Yep.
So yeah, but they've Trent Williams. So if they did a presentation, they gave him a little
99
thing. Yeah, let's say joining the 99 club. So. I think it was nice as the first in what is now what are we up to? 25th-ish Madden, I think.
Yeah, but
I think it was mid-90s.
It's more than that because I remember having the 25th edition. It might be close to 30.
There you go.
Yeah.
First offensive lineman to have 99 in 30-ish years of Madden.
I'm just trying to look it up here. The first release was in 1988.
Yeah, 30.
But then I don't know in the 90s if how they work that.
Yeah, they might have only released one every couple of years. Anyway.
Pretty crazy.
Yep.
That's going to do us for NFL?
Yeah.
All right, let's get through the On The Esky final round. Ding, ding. A bit of a shorter final round. We did cover the UFC 276 last week. Please check that out if you're interested in our review of that. The only sort of things that sort of came to fruition during the week was that Volk actually broken his hand in the second round. Yeah. So all that punishment that he unleashed, in the back end of the second, third and fifth rounds against Holloway was all done on a broken hand.
He was ranked number 1 pound for pound during the week as well.
Oh, so he overtook Kamaru Usman. That is very interesting. He also said that he wants to have his next fight down under. Obviously, all 3 of the max fights were away from Australia, with 2 in America and 1 on Fight Island. He's sick of the booze. If we had one here, I doubt there'd be very many boos for the Volk. And does the UFC kind of owe it to him now if he's their number 1 pound for pound fighter, and he hasn't even had any of his big fights back home for a long time, and he's going to go up a weight class to take on some of the boys at lightweight. Do they owe it to him to have his next fight down under? Time will tell. Obviously, in the COVID era, organising that, Dana probably had no intention of bringing any fights down here. I didn't want any of that noise. But with Australia opening back up, and potentially if he's got to go up, he's probably not looking at fighting in the next 6 months. Could be our summertime as well. There's lots of things to suggest that maybe a return for the UFC back down under.
Yeah, I'd love to see the UFC back. Volk getting a good opponent. Looks like Oliveira versus McGregor is potentially something they're looking at. So,
money fat.
Yeah. Whether Volk gets the winner of that, who knows?
Ooh. Interesting. Well, obviously you probably want to get paid as well. But he definitely said post-fight that he wants to be a 2-belt champion as well. Maybe fight Conor and then...
Well, whoever's got the belt. So
that's true.
Conor
could have a belt. Conor could have the belt. That is true. Time will tell. And obviously, I think there'd be 3 boys here that'd be very keen to go to a UFC event if they were to bring it back down under.
Definitely.
Start saving your money.
Dos Anjos and Fiziev.
Yeah, RDA got knocked out in that fight.
Yep, 18 seconds left in the 5th round.
Wow.
So,
jeez, right. Okay.
Yeah. I wonder, it says TKO there, so whether it was a bit of ground and pound to end it off. But I'm not sure if you can find that for us, Jimmy.
Good luck
but
with the UFC and
Yeah.
finishes, and it just happened. That was in the UFC fight night that's just occurred. Fiziev, he goes to, I think, 12-1 now, so pretty good mixed martial arts record there for him. RDA, he's 37 now. He's got a good record.
He
but
needed to really start. This would need to kick off his next run, and unfortunately,
I wonder what he'll be thinking moving forward.
Yeah, further through, James. That's round 4.
Oh yeah, of course. It's a free event, so we don't have to YouTube. We can actually just scroll on KO to
So that'll
to
be
try
the
and
start
find
of
it. So
start of
that's
the 5th.
Start of the 5th. So just have to keep going a little bit further there. We weren't watching this fight, so I wonder how it was looking before.
Must have been 18 seconds
Into the man. So he must just come out and line him up.
Yep. So here we go. We've got it on the KO now. Shout out to KO if you're looking to sponsor any podcasts, etc., etc.
It's definitely a good pace, this fight being the 5th round.
Doesn't it? Yeah. They're really exchanging, really exchanging.
just
Bang, big left hook, drops him, and then
ref jumped in there.
two hammer fists.
Very
Yeah,
quick.
possibly early, although that left hook definitely rocked him.
Yeah,
He
landed
went
clean.
stiff for a second, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good finish for a fight that I think RDA probably won the first couple of rounds from what I saw wrestling wise in winning the grappling exchanges. So, yeah, maybe a little early in there, but he was in dire straits, I would say, with that one.
And RDA was 7th in the lightweight division, so Fiziev will go to 7th or higher, you would imagine, when the new rankings come out. An absolutely stacked division there in the UFC.
He was covering.
Zev's on a 6-fight win streak at the moment now.
So he goes to 12-1 with that win, doesn't he? He was 11-1. Another name to look out for there in the lightweight division.
Yeah, such a stacked division.
Arguably the most stacked, but we may have that conversation at another time. Yep. In boxing, Derek Chisora wins a heavyweight bout against Kubrat Pulev, the Bulgarian. That was actually it was a title fight for the WBA International Heavyweight Division. He is 38. He's 33-12. He was coming off 3 losses, and he wants Deontay Wilder. Does that happen? Ooh, I doubt it, but stranger things do happen in boxing. It will be interesting to see how they work out what's the go there. Wilder, he's got to fight Joshua, does he not?
No, I don't think so, because I think Wilder's in the wilderness currently.
In the wilderness, if you will.
Yeah, he's currently unbooked.
Okay.
That's what I thought. Because Joshua he's got the Ukrainian.
rematch.
Yeah.
And he's got the Alexander Yuzchek fight, sorry.
And I've seen Andrew Ruiz as well. He's
Andre Ruiz, the big Mexican.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's very skinny at the moment.
Really? He dropped a few kgs?
Yeah. He's got a fight coming up, so...
He normally fights a little fat, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, well, he did against Joshua, so...
Not that fat really matters.
No.
Considering Tyson Fury's love handles don't really stop him.
No, not at all.
Anything
there on Wilder, Max?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't think he had anything booked, so that's probably a decent call out because he's unbooked currently.
Wilder says he's coming back because boxing dies without an American champion, apparently, says the Bronze Bomber. And the heavyweight division isn't exciting without him, despite Tyson Fury's success. Spoken like a true American boxer.
Yeah. And, there's the chat of Francis, etc. ongoing. And
Indeed.
Francis and John Jones have been in the Twitter battles as well, going back and forth. So creating that storyline. So hopefully we see something in regards for all that there.
F1?
Oh, sorry, before you get there. Finish boxing. Tommy Fury was out of his fight with Jake Paul. Couldn't get into rejected visa. Couldn't get into the USA.
Joking.
So that got canned, and they've got I think one of Jake Paul's former sparring partners that got into heated exchange in one of their previous warm ups. Who's actually heavyweight.
Really?
So I think it's a 200-pound catch weight is what they're doing.
Okay.
For this fight coming forward. Which I still believe is August.
Yeah, August 6th.
August 6th. So that's coming up.
Hasim Rahman Jr.
There you go. Who's had like 100 amateur boxing fights and a heap of a bunch of pro fights as well. So more experienced than maybe even Tommy was, but hey, we'll see what Jake can do there.
Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
August 6th for that one.
Yeah. There's a bunch of YouTube pay-per-views coming up for boxing in the next 2 months.
F1 is in Austria, but we need to talk Silverstone first, do we not?
Yes, let's cover off Silverstone, which ended up being a great race. We got to talk about the Zoocat crash to start it all off, which ended up being quite crazy. I think it was Gasly kind of pinches Russell into Zoo's car, which then flips it, and then it slides probably 300-400 meters across the ground on its top into the tire wall. Of course, no brakes when you're upside down. Flips it over and gets caught in the catch fence. So
over the tire barriers.
Yeah,
insane,
and then falls down between the catch fence, which is why they took between the catch fence and the tire barrier, which is probably about 2 foot wide. So it ended up
upside down as well.
Yeah, upside down.
He couldn't get out by himself.
Yeah, so he couldn't get out of the car. Luckily, there was no fire involved in any of this. Otherwise, it could be a bit more tragic. There was photographers and stuff behind there, so catch fence did its job. Everything the Halo did its job. The rollover hoop they're going to have a look at because it essentially disintegrated. But I think it's more designed for impact, not sliding. So because it's actually, I believe, glued on in the Alfa Romeo car. It's more done for if you flip and land on it, like it'll absorb all the impact. So it did its job in that regards. But it took a nice big divot out of the Silverstone track and ended up red flagging the race and ended up being a bit of a scary thing. I think Russell as well probably deserves a little bit of credit. Everyone else, Albon had crashed as well and had to go to hospital. But then Ocon and I can't remember the other one.
So Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, Russell, and Guan Yu all did not finish.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, so a bunch of those on this because they essentially created a concertina effect into the first corner where they all crashed into each other. So a bunch of those they drove on, get around back into the pits, and they can fix the car on the red flag. But Russell stops. Actually gets out of his car and then runs across the gravel to go check on Zoom. Was probably the third person on scene with the officials. Because when he got back to his car, he couldn't start it again and they had to drive it back. So he couldn't actually participate in the race. So he actually, by being the Good Samaritan, ruled himself out. But I think Russell will take that every day of the week and breaks his streak of Mr. Consistency. But, great vision on his part. Probably not his fault for causing the crash, but he did cause the flip, I guess. But it is what it is.
Does the Halo save his life there, do you think?
With the roller hoop failing without it, he's probably sliding on his helmet. So, it's, again, testament to the safety that is brought into F1, the Halo, and all the safety regulations. Like, it's definitely working to the point that, Zoo worked away unscathed and is racing today. It's a pretty crazy. Have you seen this, Peps? It's a pretty crazy kind of scene. They lose it on the initial camera, and you just see this car flying around in the back. The videos from the spectators on that corner is probably the more scary thing. You just see this car coming straight at you, and it's not stopping because there's nothing to stop it when it's upside down.
Was the track still wet from the rains in the days leading up to it? That would have dried out pretty quick.
I think it was all good by race time.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things. 4 cars can't go into one corner.
Yeah, sure.
Trying to own the same part of the racetrack, and Gasly, repeat offender, did it in the sprint race. Last night as well, he tried to pinch up against Hamilton, and Hamilton can't disappear, so he ends up spinning his car around. So, Gasly may be a little bit aggressive in starting of races. Anyway, for Silverstone, Sainz wins his first GP in his 150th race. For him,
150 to take it.
Yeah. I think Perez.
Long time for the biggies.
Perez won his second race last time, and that was his 150th out as well. So. He's good for him. Perez finished second after having to be forced to an early pit stop with crashes in the first lap. Was last, I believe. So friend from first to second. Hamilton finished third and had the fastest lap. He had a great battle there with the Ferraris trying to get in Potentially he was very quick, potentially actually winning this race, but finishing third, he was very happy with that and kind of showed where his car and the Mercedes definitely looking better. Max had floor damage, was leading the race, but he couldn't maintain his pace, and even with a damaged car, actually had a big piece of an Alpine. I think it was Albon. No, it wasn't Albon. It would have been Ocon or Alonso's car, probably Ocon's car, lodged in his floor. Jesus. So it was probably about a football size, which was, and it just goes to show how much it affects the aerodynamics to the fact that it caused him to go from first to seventh. So Mick Schumacher finishes eighth there for his first points, celebrated like he won the GP. His family very happy, but it also gave him confidence. And Haas has been really good. They were very good in the sprint race last night. They're finishing in the top 10s. They're kind of turning that team around, and they did have a double points finish. Unfortunately for our boy Ricciardo, they didn't do too well. His tyre strategy was odd. Like they went from the mediums to the soft, which then put him so far behind, like they couldn't make any traction on it, and then had to switch to the hards after everyone kind of had done that stint, and that really put him completely out of phase with everyone else on the racetrack. So whether they were behind and tried something and it didn't work, it's probably what happened here. At least Zach Brown during the week, it sounds like they'll keep him, see out his contract, so he'll be there next season.
That's good.
Both him and Lando were comparable pace last night in the sprint race, finished 11th and 12th from memory, but they, I think, were 7th all the way through to 12th was separated by seconds, so ended up being pretty good. So that's where they are. Sprint race, as I said, won by Max. Ferraris fought each other and ended up finishing, I think, Leclerc Sainz 2-3. That's how they'll start in the race tonight. Russell had no real competition. He'll be 4th. Perez fought from 13th up into 5th. Wow. So, big for him. Probably baddest news for Alonso and Vettel having to start right at the bottom. Alonso's car didn't start for the sprint race, so he was ruled out, which means he'll start 20th in the race. And Vettel got spun late by Gasly, I have a feeling. I can't remember exactly. But he got spun and also was out. And Tarek Sims gets binned twice. We'll get to that in a minute. So, interesting race. Red Bull favourite. Verstappen probably going to win this. We'll see if Perez can finish second. I think it's going to be the chat. I'd hopefully see Lando and Ricciardo. They look like they had some race pace here, be competitive. See if the Mercedes can stay in touch with Red Bull's in sights. And we could talk porpoising. There's been some chat about the team principals getting stuck into each other. With the new regulations and the porpoising, they've found that maybe Red Bull and Ferrari allegedly, most likely it was those two, had been circumnavigating the rules a little bit, because you're meant to have a stable floor, but they only check like the start of the floor and like 2 feet down. So what they were doing is making the rest of the floor flexible, which means essentially if the floor can flex, means the back of the car can flex, sort of like dampening, like a suspension, and dampening the porpoising. While they didn't have porpoising, maybe Mercedes did. So it looks like the rules are going to be reinforced, let's say, and maybe that'll have effect on Red Bull and Ferrari. We'll see if that brings the Mercedes into contention a bit more. Long season still to go, they're that's three-way battle of constructors. It's whether those guys can get into that conversation there for potential winning the Drivers' Championship as well. But Max clear favourite at this point.
That'll do us for F1?
Yes. Before we jump to tennis, you want to talk about this Dragons game real quickly?
So
Broncos have scored, but Tarek Sims has been binned for the second time in this match already. So
taking out his origin frustrations about being dropped on the Brisbane Broncos. The first one was for a higher shot. I didn't see what this second one was for.
Yeah, I think the second one was a swinging arm. The first one was high shot, I think, on the kicker from what I saw. But that's good. The Dragons were on top once they had a full full squad. But bin man means try time for the baby Broncos, who have taken the lead 8-6. And Sri Lanka have kind of settled into after that wicket. They've kind of settled in.
Lunchtime there.
Did they make 300 or were they still?
I think they were close.
280s.
No, 262. 262. 3 for 262. So only the one wicket in the first session there. So we've got a game on our hands in the cricket.
Yep.
And tennis. Let's talk Wimbledon. So in the ladies, Kazakh Elena Rybakina wins the women's singles. It was her maiden Grand Slam title. It seems in the post Barty/Serena Williams era that it's really made it wide open. I think there was only one top 10 seed in the girls that made the quarterfinals. Alia Tomljanovic, unfortunately, the Aussie, she wasn't able to progress past the quarters. She had the shits with the press, much like, we're talking about them with Dusty Martin. They want to ask the questions that the people want to hear, I suppose, but they lack a bit of respect sometimes. After she won her fourth round match, the first question that she got asked was about her relationship. No, her relationship with Nick Kyrgios.
Oh, yeah. They were doubles partners, weren't they?
Yeah, and they went out. They went out together for a couple of years actually, and she was pretty disappointed after winning a fourth round game, getting through to the quarterfinals, being asked straight off the bat about that.
What was the chat with Nick Kyrgios during the tournament? And was he charged with something?
He got charged with assault.
Assault, yeah. That's
Yeah. So that, it's got to be playing on his mind, I imagine.
Yeah.
The timing of it, obviously I don't want to speak out of line, but the timing is very unusual.
Yeah. What was the assault? Was it
domestic
okay.
with the with his ex girlfriend?
Yeah.
He's now engaged to his current girlfriend. So when he comes back here, he will have to go through court with that lady. Obviously, we're not going to comment too much about legal proceedings. We'll leave that, for the people with legal expertise.
I can see why the media's line of questioning, but it's also like.
Well, it's disrespectful to Tomljanovic. She said, no, nothing like that happened with me when I was going out with Nick. Next question, please.
Yeah, exactly. Don't keep going on. But let's talk about how I just won the fucking tournament.
Well, just one. We're talking about Tomljanovic here. So she won. This is her fourth round before going out in the quarters. Yeah. The lady that did win the tournament, she represents Kazakhstan, but she grew up in Russia, obviously has Kazakh heritage. She represented Russia until she was 19, so until 4 years ago. So had she not switched allegiances to represent her native Kazakhstan, she wouldn't have been allowed to compete in this Wimbledon. So it's interesting.
Well, have you seen
how things play out?
Yeah. Have you seen that? Was it ATP?
That's the World Tennis.
The
Tennis Pros.
They don't take rankings from this tournament because of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for like Nick, he's not going to get a bump in any of the rankings because they know they don't count. Because of the stance that they have taken on Russia, I believe. So there's a bit of fighting between the Grand Slams and then the professional circuit.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Do you punish Russian athletes and Belarusian athletes for what's going on, in Russia? They don't have obviously much control around it. Does sanctioning them, does Putin go, I'm going to end this, war because Medvedev can't play? No
platform, bro.
I don't know. It's a hard one. Do you feel sorry for them? Do you feel sorry for the Russian footballers that can't compete to play in the World Cup? It's an interesting one.
I just didn't realise though that ATP had taken that stance that on for those tournaments that have made that decision that they weren't essentially including the rankings from the tournament.
It's interesting. Bit of fighting. Good news for the Aussies. Matt Ebden and Max Purcell, they won the men's doubles. They were the blokes that lost Kyrgios and Kokkinakis in the Australian Open. It's the first time that Aussies, or two Aussies, have won the doubles at Wimbledon since the Woodies. So quite some time, nearly 20 years there.
So what was the reason for the Special K's not competing in the doubles?
So Kyrgios is still playing, bro. So the only reason why they were playing doubles is because they both lost their singles games.
But I would have thought they would have had to have entered into the registered to be in the doubles tournament.
Tennis experts here.
Yeah, no, I think they were slated to play, but then obviously because Kyrgios was doing well.
well,
He was
but-
You don't
nominated
play.
to go
You're
into
not going to
singles.
play. Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
going to play doubles and then have to play every day when you're single. Like essentially, the doubles guys, for anyone that plays singles and doubles, the only reason why they go deep is if they've lost their singles games early.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's fair. It is just, with Kyrgios's, cardio of, playing a game and then smashing 10 beers and then backing up playing another game. I thought he could probably fit in a doubles game.
Didn't have
as
to
well.
play semi either. He got the default against Nadal. But yeah, that's generally as it comes. Obviously, not massive tennis aficionados. Just like to comment about what we think about Nick Kyrgios, like everyone else seems to do. But
have an opinion.
it does set up a massive Wimbledon
that's
men's
tonight?
men's final tonight. It's going to be shit timing, through the middle of the night. But I'm sure a lot of Aussies will wake up to the news, and the diehard tennis fans will be going to work bleary-eyed tomorrow, or be taking the day off perhaps, because geez, we haven't had a men's singles champion for a very long time. Monks, do you mind chasing that up?
When was the last time an Australian was in the final? Would it Leighton?
Leighton, yeah. It have to be for men's tennis. It would be close to 20 years. Yeah, you can chase that one up. Just go all Grand Slams, maybe. I know in 2001, actually, Pat Rafter lost to Goran Ivanisevic. So that's 21 years ago.
Yeah, so it'd be either him or whether Leighton.
I think
in between them.
Leighton. I feel like Leighton won the US in maybe 02, something like that, off the top of the head. We haven't had a men's champion for about 20 years. I'm gonna say that.
Well, even
even
Australian playing in the final, I don't think we've had one since those.
It's
either.
been a long time in the men's, of course.
'Cause
Ash
I
Barty
don't
winning
see-
a few recently.
I don't think Philippousis ever went that deep, and I think
Yeah, I don't think
Leighton's probably the only one.
I don't think the Pooh made a final either. Yeah, it'd have to be Leighton. Monks, chase it up if you would. I know you can do list of Grand Slam winners. That'll only get you the winner. Yeah, good luck.
Well, just do Leighton and see if Leighton ever played in a final for Wimbledon.
Oh, for Wimbledon. See, I know Leighton won US, but did he win a Wimbledon? Maybe he did. Monks will have fun down the end there chasing that one up.
Well, he was world number one for a reason. So
I'm pretty sure Leighton won 2 Grand Slams. I just can't remember if it was 2 USs or if it was 1 and 1. I'm going to get some odds whilst you do that. What do the bookies think here for Kyrgios and Djokovic? Sportsbet, an Australian bookie, mind you, have Djokovic at $1.25. Nick Kyrgios $4. Kyrgios has beaten Djokovic before as well. I don't think he's ever done it in a Grand Slam, but I know in other tournaments he does have wins over the Joker. Yeah, that looks good. So there in 2005 was the last time that an Australian was in a men's final in Leighton Hewitt losing to Marat Safin.
he won in 2002 Wimbledon. He won the US Open 2001.
Yep.
Quarterfinals in the French Open in 01 and 04, and he was the final of the 05 Australian Open. But
And shout out to the Pooh. We'd forgotten 2003 Wimbledon. Mark Philippoussis lost to Roger Federer.
yeah.
So, but look at that, a pretty good year, a pretty good run there for Australian tennis stars through the late 90s and early noughties. So Pat Rafter winning the US in 98 and 97 against the Pooh. And then in 99 there weren't any Aussies in finals, but then 2000 Wimbledon, Pat Rafter lost to Sampras. 2001, Leighton won the US against Sampras, and Rafter lost to Ivanisevic. So Pat Rafter back in 2001 losing consecutive Wimbledons, and then in 02 Leighton winning Wimbledon. 20 years. It's been 20 years. Maybe is that an omen? Is that an omen for Nicky? Get at us in the comments if Nick Kyrgios does it for you. Do you get around him? Yeah. Look, he gets people talking about tennis. You can't argue that. People love him or love to hate him. The media definitely has painted him as the villain. It's going to be interesting. The game against Tsitsipas was interesting when he knocked off the number 4.
Well,
was living rent-free in his head.
And I think, is that the game plan for Joker? Can he rile the Joker and get him off his game, which I think is what he's going to need.
Get in his head.
to win.
They did have a little social media exchange, which seemed pretty friendly, I think.
Was it lunch or dinner on the winner?
Something like that.
Dinner.
I did send it in the group chat. It was Nick asking Novak, are they friends now? And then if you're inviting me for a drink or dinner, I accept. PS winner of tomorrow pays. And Nick said back to him, deal, let's go to a nightclub and go nuts. Interesting as well, because Nick was quite vocal of Novak and his hosting of tournaments during lockdowns and the rest of it. But it seems like it's all water under a bridge, at least on the socials. And we've got an Australian in a men's Grand Slam final tonight for the first time in 20 years. That will do us here on the Esky. I hope you're having a good week. If you're listening back to this on the tools, in the office, taking a shit, whatever you're doing. Be unusual if you're listening to us taking a shit, but
We're nearly at the 3 hour mark.
maybe you're taking a shit, maybe you're listening to pure shit. Who knows? Who knows? Thank you for your continued support. We do appreciate it. Check us out on the socials. We should be here next weekend unless my wife goes into labour. If that's the case, we'll have a couple of weeks off. Thank you for listening, etc., etc. Check us out, blah, blah, blah. Esky code, 25% off still works on Carlton Draft. We had to check that one. Does that still work? All right. See you next time. Bye.
Catch ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Hit your button, Jamie.